But the protagonist says no, and questions why she's even there, considering she came all the way there to fight him. However, So-young asks if he hasn't heard about Captain Kim. He was supposed to get a guardian, and he remembers that, but says that they said a competent person was coming, and she came against her will, after all. He ended up winning hers. She says that she is the most competent, but the protagonist says she doesn't seem like it, and she gets irritated with him, saying that she came that way because she was in a hurry. She believes that she doesn't, and the protagonist wonders if he might not be so perceptive after all, asking what his awakened ability is. He states that it's decapitation. Meanwhile, he sees should touch his prey, and she asks him not to worry, because she went there to see just how good he is. And just then, the portal closes, and she begins to realize that the thing he is hunting has already come for him, receiving it. And when Proto looks back, he sees a huge creature ready to fight and realizes that it is an orc warrior, saying that he will have to fight the dungeon boss right away, thinking he's in luck. But then he tells her that there must be 4 bosses, and she questions what he's talking about. Then, all his suspicions are confirmed, and she thinks that this can't. You might be right, as level 2 dungeons don't usually have that kind of danger right off the bat. And he says, this isn't a level 2 dungeon. And the girl doesn't understand anything, and the protagonist asks if she didn't feel anything when she was going through the portal, asking if she's sure she's capable. And the girl gets angry, saying that it was because of the bracelet's barrier that she didn't feel anything. But he says that, in any case, she shouldn't touch his prey, taking off with everything he's got, raising dust and scaring the girl, and she questions what insane speed that is. He hits with everything. On top of that orc warrior, grabbing him and throwing him to the ground, stealing his weapon, and preparing to use it to kill the creature. As the others approach, he decapitates the first one, ripping the top of its head off, hitting it right in the middle of the mouth, and the monster immediately falls over, stinking, right behind him, and the others, seeing this, become frightened. And the protagonist grabs that axe and throws it right into the middle of the second one's head, killing him instantly and causing him to fall straight down. And the bald orc starts running after the protagonist, who makes an insane run for it and jumps from the top of the cliff, grabbing onto a vine and doing a Tarzan, getting out of the bald orc's sight, who keeps looking for him. But he throws himself right behind the bald orc's head, preparing to kill him. Meanwhile, Choi, on the outside, that blonde woman passing by, and finds it strange that she's there, so he shouts, calling her blonde. Then one of the guys asks if he's calling out to their captain, saying it seems like he says that they can pay him now, because even if they are S rank, it will be difficult to leave. But then, their contractor asks what level the dungeon is, while the protagonist is killing another one of the orcs with just a punch, crushing his head completely with a blow from top to bottom. So-young is in disbelief at what is happening before her eyes, as he killed 3 level 2 dungeon bosses, each with a single attack, very easily. The last one remaining goes after him, and so the protagonist asks why the dungeon level would even matter. After all, he just has to kill them all. And that other one arrives to try and kill him, but the protagonist gets out of the way of his axe, causing it to hit the ground, and after dodging to the side, he delivers a kick at that monster, throwing him forcefully to the side, and the monster rolls away, while the protagonist sees that his plan worked perfectly, as the orc was impaled on a branch that was nearby and died instantly. And the protagonist earns 32 achievement points from all those deaths. He realizes that this place is a gold mine, and So-young doesn't understand anything as he hands her a backpack. He tells her, "Don't just stand there saying she can help you carry the blood crystals." And the girl, seeing this, thinks that even though he's irregular, he barely has any experience points of an F rank, but still, she doesn't see even a hint of hesitation in the way he hunts and kills, questioning if he's a psychopath, while the protagonist goes to retrieve that blood crystal from the monster, and she gets worried about something using search, and the protagonist thinks that even the blood crystals are huge on that monster. But then, So-young tells him that now is not the time for this, and he asks why. And she says that even though he killed 4 orc warrior chiefs, the portal didn't open, and she throws the backpack at him again, saying that the only thing in the Crescent wants to die. And then he notices K-Park. The protagonist apologizes for the misunderstanding last time, explaining that he's still not used to having conversations with civilized people, but the girl abruptly cuts him off. Backpack or rocks, asking if he didn't notice. And the protagonist asks if she's serious, saying that at least he can use the backpack to store the blood crystals, since there's nothing else in there. And she, seeing how he doesn't give a damn about the trap he just fell into, she thinks he really has no brains, especially since this place is at least a level 4 dungeon. What if it's a dungeon? Level 4, or higher, it will be difficult for them to get out of there alive, even if they combine their strength. But the protagonist is surprised because he tricked Choi by saying that this gold mine was only a level 2 dungeon, when in reality he put him in a dungeon higher than level 4 and let him enter for free. And the girl is surprised because he is so excited, and so he starts to shout to Choi, saying that he's going to buy him something really awesome when he gets out, and the girl thinks he's really an idiot, because the crazy guy is happy in a situation like this. But in reality, in fact, they gave him an absurd opportunity to do some off-the-books mining. He went looking for copper, but I actually think he found gold, and so she looks back, scared, almost being hit by one of those orc warriors. However, as she tries to use her signature draw attack, she realizes that she didn't bring her sword and notices that it's not with her. And when she sees that, there is nothing she can do, as her sword is on her motorcycle. She is almost hit, but the protagonist saves her at the last moment, cutting off the orc's head with a single attack, and the girl only sees the dead body falling next to her. She immediately looks at the protagonist, and he tells her to relax, reassuring her. After all, he is strong, even though he used to be stronger, and the girl is surprised that he was still even stronger than that. Looking back, she wonders what that energy was that she felt just now, and uses her clairvoyance to see what is going on, noticing that there is a huge army, coldly telling him that they won't be seeing each other again. Everyone there ends up thinking that the protagonist just got rejected, and Soro is left behind, not understanding anything, while the girl is left, of those orcs heading towards them. I'm telling you, he's gonna save your skin so many times, girl. He's going to save you so much. If you went in there alone, you wouldn't even remember your weapon to bring. After what he shows you and what you experience, his mating proposal will seem like the best offer in the world to you. And she screams at him, saying that a squad of orcs are surrounding them. Furthermore, she looks behind all those orcs, noticing a war chief, and the protagonist is surprised because, even though the monk Jin isn't there, the prey keeps coming. But the girl tells him to be quiet, and just like that, some of the monsters come with wolves too, and she thinks that there are even orcs mounted on them, and the protagonist is surprised that it is a wolf, all excited. And she says she's coming to help, but he tells her not to dare touch them, because they're all his. But she asks how he can say that in this situation, using her shield to defend herself. And the protagonist continues, killing the monsters calmly, taking them off the wolf. And the girl uses the inventory, summoning the sword. And she uses that sword to inflict a wound on one of the orcs right next to her, from his rib. But she thinks that if only she had her blade, she would be able to kill him directly. But the protagonist repeats that he already told her not to touch his prey, and then he attacks. He throws that orc away with a heavy lunge, pulling it off the wolf. He lands behind the girl, and she's surprised as he rushes past, killing several of those orcs with one attack, coordinated, eliminating them with one blow. He goes after some more that are coming, and he accelerates until one of the orcs manages to hit him right in the stomach, throwing the protagonist away. And it's the war chief. The war chief starts shouting, calling everyone to attack him again, and the protagonist is thrown back, almost being launched into the middle of the rest of those orcs, but questioning him about his misunderstanding. So everyone thinks there's something going on between the two of them, but the blonde starts to get irritated, asking why they haven't left yet. And the protagonist, he manages to get up calmly and gets excited, asking if he is the boss. The boss roars at him, challenging him to a one-on-one fight. And so she tells him to get that bastard first, and the Proto once again grabs his dagger and goes after that boss, who tries to hit him with his club, but the boy manages to dodge it very calmly, taking that dagger and plunging it into his back. And so, Swang asks if he killed him, but Proto sees that this isn't Cass, and once again takes a huge hit from that club, leaving part of his dagger broken, because it broke when he hit the monster backwards, and the girl was thrown far away. Meanwhile, they talk to Kimson, saying that what is happening is strange. She asks what's wrong, which was, and one of the guys asks if So-young didn't go to meet Soro. She asks what's wrong, and he says that the cell phone signals are in 2 different locations, but there has been movement for an hour now, and she finds this strange, and he says that Soro's signal is near a level 1 dungeon, but Captain Choi So-young's is somewhere else. So, Kim asks what he means by that, since Ning is certain that the two of them were together. Meanwhile, Soro's guild completes another dungeon, and the streamer tells them to rest for an hour before heading back. And Joro mentions that they will reorganize and clear out their inventories before setting off for another one. But at that moment, the streamer glances inside the car and notices that Soro left without grabbing her cell phone. Meanwhile, the girl's cell phone, which she left on her motorcycle, is ringing, and the person on the other end is asking what she's doing and what Choi So-young's location is, and he says that he already checked, and they are in a newly opened level 5 dungeon, and she is very surprised by this. Then she recalls when she instructed So-young to go to the portal with him, and the girl thinks it's a shame, saying that she's the captain, but has a very unpleasant personality, and so the two of them head home. Meanwhile, over there with Grandma, a woman is keeping, asked if she really needed to go that far. Then she questions why they went to a level 5 dungeon out of the blue, asking if she entered the portal with him, and that manager replies, which is the DGB Guild, and she orders them to confirm the entry record for that level 5 dungeon and to tell whoever is in charge of managing the DGB Guild portal to call her immediately. Meanwhile, Prota is being thrown back and chased by those orcs, and the girl arrives, shouting his name and asking him to get up, and Prota opens his eyes again. While the orcs are almost reaching him, he says that it's getting a little difficult now, but then he grabs one of the orcs, pulling him forward, and takes the orc's axes, throwing them at another orc's head, right in the middle of his forehead, and the others start shooting arrows at him. So-young runs out and notices that there are even archers there. She's almost hit, rolling on the ground and about to be crushed by a few more of the orcs. However, she uses a defensive bomb, burning their clothes and blinding some of them, and killing several with the explosion. However, Prota arrives, catching her and running away from the orcs. Warboss attack that almost crushes the girl, and as they run away, the boss keeps calling out to the protagonist, and she asks him what he's doing, and he tells her that they have to run. She says, "There are orcs everywhere," questioning how they can run, but he tells her that area is empty, and the girl asks what he's talking about, saying they can't go there, because it's a cliff, and the protagonist says that's exactly why they're going there. And so, while leading her by the arm, he grabs the girl and places her on his lap, and she questions again what he is doing, and he tells her to hold on tight, jumping off the cliff with her in his arms, throwing himself down. As he jumps, some orcs even lunge at him, but he manages to turn around and land company for her, and she says that the strawberry wine is perfect, and the lady says that it's very good to see a young girl with such a voracious appetite like that, mentioning that her husband made this wine 10, standing down below with the girl in his lap, while all the other orcs crash and die, and she questions if she's alive, and the protagonist simply lies on the floor, saying that he almost died. The girl is completely bewildered, as the height of the fall was unbelievable, and despite falling from such a height, they're still alive. So, he takes her to a cave. She notices that the bastards are making too much noise, still searching for him, but she calls the protagonist to ask what his plan is, and he says that if he kills just 4 more orc warriors, he'll be able to level up, and after that, they'll attack again. She's surprised and says that leveling up increases his limit. It's as if he's going to become much stronger, but for him, it's like he was removing his restrictions, which she doesn't quite understand. He says he becomes much stronger, and she keeps looking at him, until, in the meantime, a big commotion happens outside, and everyone crowds around that portal. Some authorities ask them not to cross the barricade, and a reporter begins an interview with a newspaper reports that he is currently in the level 5 dungeon under the management of the DGB Guild, and 2 days ago, an unfortunate incident occurred, so everyone from the Soro Guild is going there to pray for him. The protagonist and the reporter say that they caught a Choi, and he stated that Park Soro and Choi Son-sang entered of their own accord. However, after his lies were detected by Major Kin Yang of the army headquarters, he confessed his crimes, and so they ask him to say something, specifically what Park Soro's final words were. He finds this annoying. They announce that that section will become a department, and the journalist says that while attention is being focused on the safe return of Park Soro, male prisoners will be returned from a new planet years ago, but ended up passing away without being able to taste it, and the girl becomes increasingly irritated with the monsters as she drinks. The grandmother says that even the way she speaks is beautiful. Think, she, planet. They also need to consider the potential losses that South Korea will face from losing the portals to the new planet in this incident, especially considering that they are in the age of dimensions, industries. And then Kim Mi-sor arrives, calling for the director and asking what he's currently doing, which he doesn't quite understand. So she tells him that they need to catch all of these bastards, but he asks if she's referring to the people responsible, since they've already caught them all. Although the lone dragon boss escaped, they've placed a bounty on him. But Mi-sor argues that this is just cutting off the operation's tail, pointing out that it's a level 5 dungeon, and asking if he genuinely believes it was all the work of a single person, and he asks if she wants him to investigate the DGB Guild, a level 5 guild, just based on that. She then asks him if Soro and Su-young will be resurrected if they do that, and questions what he means by just based on that. He explains that Paro is allegedly a returnee from a fourth planet. He suggests that Paro might just be a returnee from a dungeon instead of a new planet, but she becomes increasingly angry with the director. However, it is said that recently, the number of crimes connected to criminal organizations has increased, and therefore, there has been criticism regarding the urgent need to punish the sloppy dungeon management by guilds. Then he is shocked because they are now circulating the press release to pressure the guild. If he could just go to the guild's financial manager to try and extort some money, everything would be alright. But Kim stays back there crying because she was the one who sent Captain Choi So-young there. Looking back, he asks if she thinks he doesn't feel anything about this problem. But at this moment, there is nothing they can do except maintain their faith in her and wait. And the reporter there continues praising Grandma's food. Then she gets straight to the point, saying that Soro is taking a while. And she says that it was only by mentioning his name that he appeared, and the protagonist arrives there, not understanding anything, and says that speculation suggests that their chances of survival are low. And Kim's, seeing this, starts crying even more, while the director continues to pretend to feel something when, in fact, true, he just wanted to fight them, while Misu cries for So-young. But, in the meantime, he comes across an orc that is prowling around, and the protagonist's spirit goes there to draw its attention, and the protagonist tries to catch it. The spirit runs away though. The orc becomes increasingly angry and tries to strike the spirit with its axe, and is drawn to where the protagonist wants to lead it. It arrives at a tree where the spirit hides, and the protagonist falls onto the orc from that tree, killing it in one fell swoop. And with that additional kill, he thinks that now he only needs 3 more in order to level up. Meanwhile, So-young uses her clairvoyance to find another orc, and she says that there is an orc 100 meters ahead, and the protagonist quickly departs from there, while the girl asks him to wait, but he jumps on the orc while trying to kill it. But the girl runs out of hiding, saying that it is a trap. And at that moment, the protagonist is thrown up into the air by a huge log that comes out of the ground, knocking him out. I confess to you that it's not every day that the ultra-strong protagonist falls into such a ridiculous trap, and the girl sees that orc picking up a trumpet and warning everyone else around him, and everyone gets ready to attack him. Him, coming out of the holes where they were hiding and surrounding the two, using a surprisingly advanced military tactic for monsters with such low intelligence. So, she tells him to get up, and the prota, restart your windows, looking to the side and seeing that something went wrong, as there are several orcs heading towards him. He questions what happened, wondering if he fell into a trap, and questions why he is like this, as his senses are becoming blurred, and he cannot muster any strength in his body. And just then, some orcs approach to kill him, and Soy shouts to him that he has been starving for. If you haven't seen it yet, I recommend pausing this video and checking it out, because it's seriously good. But if you still don't want to because you're feeling lazy, don't worry, I'm going to. Nephew runs to his father too, so he can find Bigot. The two run to embrace each other. Meanwhile, that girl is talking with Soro, and the protagonist asks who she is, and sees that it's Kim Misor. 2 days, and he realizes this as she drops some defensive bombs near them to finish them off, blowing up several of those orcs all at once. But the girl ends up falling into the floor while throwing it, collapsing nearby, completely powerless, and the protagonist rushes to her, grabbing the axe and using it on those orcs, hitting 2 of them at once, and thinks that he only needs 1 more, and he goes after that last orc, thinking that he's about to level up. Man, it's always like this. Basic rule of survival. Never anticipate what's about to happen, because the chance of things going wrong is very high. But while he's almost killing that orc, the war chief arrives and throws the protagonist away once again with a single clubbing. And so, this girl ends up opening her eyes at that noise, and the war chief starts screaming again, and she says that that fat orc appeared again, while the protagonist is thrown onto another orc, hitting him. They both fall instantly, and with that, the axe that was in his hand ends up turning and falling right on the orc's head, purely by luck. Then he levels up, and 175 achievement points are accumulated, and the system asks him if he would like to unlock the skill and the bestial transformation. Seeing this, the protagonist realizes it could be beneficial. Just as the warlord charges towards him, So-young is on the floor, collapsed and utterly weak, thinking she lacks the strength even to stand. The war chief prepares to kill her with a strike from his club as she struggles to reach for her sword, hoping to do something. Meanwhile, Grandma's looking for Bike Go, calling him to eat, and he rushes towards her, so she serves him the pot of food, but says it has been 2 days since there was any news about his owner's survival. The boy is in this state, but despite that, he starts eating to grow strong. But back at the portal, rank level 2. And he explains that the captain of the Awakened department is asking why she's there, and she replies that she came to sign a contract with him, the protagonist. Su-young manages to deflect the warlord's attack, protecting herself and somehow remaining alive. Meanwhile, the protagonist activates the bestial transformation, and his bestial transformation winds up teleporting BG, who was about to eat his food, to his location. But before he could leave, he rises up in a ball of energy, causing Grandma to fall and sit on the floor, completely scared. Meanwhile, Prota is enveloped in dark energy. Simultaneously, the girl escapes the attacks of the war chief Rio Prota, eventually becoming a type of werewolf and resisting with everything as his transformation completes. He truly turns into some kind of lycanthrope at the last moment. Just as she begins to be hit by that club, she drops the sword, and the war chief rushes towards her to deliver the final blow. But then, Soru, completely transformed, attacks the warlord at an absurd speed, and when the chief turns his face, it's too late, as Prota grabs his head and carries him far away. And so the girl is surprised to see a werewolf there, because that werewolf is toying with the war chief, on the ground, preparing to punch him and delivering so many blows that the boss can't even resist, starting to bleed. And she, seeing this, realizes that this totally brutal monster is the protagonist, and he grabs the warlord's neck, biting down with all his might. The girl is left speechless, and after he finishes eating the warlord's neck, he gets 45 achievement points, and she becomes even more frightened. Then Prota looks back, and the girl looks at him, recognizing that look and realizing it's parkour, and he barks at her in a somewhat shameful way because he's barking, and she doesn't understand anything, and she asks if he's a dog and not a wolf, and he kind of confirms it. I don't know. He's saying woof. I don't know what he means. I don't speak doggish. Doesn't quite understand. And she asks if he knows the official name for a returned, and he says no, and she tells him it's human coordinate. And then the protagonist asks if, when he was, and outside, the reporter says that it's already the 3rd day since the disappearance, and there's no news about the 2 people who entered the dungeon. The only thing there is a motorcycle, waiting for its owner. Then, he speaks with the director of DD Maik, who is present, requesting that the director explain to the viewers the nature of this dungeon, and he says it's a level dungeon known as Orchid Castle, which is a dungeon recommended to be tackled with at least a group of 30 B rank members, or 30 members with fewer than 10 A ranks. And the Enyenchai, cameraman recording everything, starts complaining about a media blackout and a bunch of crap, saying it was all just a show. The department is probably using Parque Soriero of the guild, and he asks how long he needs to film this crap, but the reporter asks him if it still wouldn't be incredible footage if, somehow, they came back alive. But then, the camera guy asks if he really thinks Parque Soriero is on the same level as Lu or something, since he is, at most, F rank, and some days that's how it is. The headline reports that South Korea loses a future rank, but then, Baikgu ends up going back to Grandma's to eat her rations, and she wonders what kind of phenomenon this is, and there in front of Soyoung, the protagonist completely detransforms. He thinks he confused with the beast he tamed, realizing it wasn't a transformation, but a fusion. But when he looks at her, he sees that the girl is scared, and he asks what she's doing, saying they're going to grab as much loot as they can, and then go out to eat. But she says it's useless, and he asks why. She says it's because this place will be her grave, and he questions what she's talking about, and she says that even with the orc warlord dying, the door didn't open, questioning what he thinks. Returning to Earth, he came through a red portal, and he confirms it, and she says that the moment he returned to Earth through that portal, the conditions were met, a returned. That means, and the protagonist has a bad feeling about this. Then the weather starts to change, and it starts to rain, and he asks So-young if she's saying that if the warlord wasn't the boss. She says yes, explaining that there's an even stronger monster there. He asks what kind of monster would make her consider digging her own grave before even laying eyes on it, and she answers that this monster is something she has already encountered. And 3 years prior, just after she had ranked up to B, the department dispatched a team of 20 combatants, along with 10 A-rank mercenaries, for a mission in a level 5 dungeon. One of the hunters there glances at her, asking if her ankle is alright, and she tells him not to worry about it, saying it's much better now. He replies that it's a relief. Captain Kimisao was also present, and remarks that she can see him drooling from all the way over there, which is why you shouldn't come to these places with couples. Just then, all those orcs invaded and discovered them. The captain commanded them to maintain their formation and advance toward the central tower. One of them spoke to Kim, simply ordering her to hold off the orcs for 3 hours. She confirms this, proceeding to stop the orcs with her. The power. And another voice says that the defense line at 4 o'clock is collapsing, asking who's there. And they say it's King John at 4 o'clock, that he needs assistance, but he ends up getting beaten up and left, injured and out of combat after an attack. And Soang reports that he is injured and requesting assistance, and Miss runs there, telling her to stay away. But as she runs, she simply stumbles, ending up in front of those orcs. However, the other hunter steps in, throwing his lightning whip at those monsters, lifting them up and saving the girl. And Miss tells them to clear the way, killing them all. And she tells Taon and also Choi Soyoung to retreat to 2 o'clock, and the two look at each other, and he pulls her, urging her to having success in returning, and a sign of that success, but he doesn't quite understand, and she says that portal will appear again, a bridge portal, allowing travel back and forth, and the protagonist asks where it will go, but she asks Taeron to wait, saying that she thinks something is wrong, but he tells her that they can talk later, so she keeps asking him to wait and to have calm down, because she says there's another energy signature nearby, but as they approach a wall, she says that the energy is coming from that place, and up on a peak, there's an orc with 3 eyes. That orc attacks Taeron, severing his arm. Then, she is thrown to the side, and his sword falls near her. When she and the others look over, they see Taeron dead, thrown on the ground, and the 3-eyed orc picks up his spear, about to stab him with it. Su Yang keeps shouting, Taeron, but in that moment, he only speaks of the sword, and she, at that moment, wonders who cares about that stupid sword, while remembering him asking her to put her feelings into the sword. And since it cannot be separated from Yang, his sword, her body and mind need to be one, and he asks her to grab the sword, but then he's killed, crushed by that thing, and the girl is shocked as she remembers this. At that moment, as she speaks with the protagonist, she wipes away her tears, and he senses the gravity of the situation and her sadness. He approaches her and offers comfort, shocked that something like this has occurred. In her past, meanwhile, her sword begins to react, and the streamer is currently recording himself, wondering what they should do if they leave him in this state, and he's live, and everyone believes he isn't faking his reaction, while he remains there, deeply saddened. Consequently, during the news report, the journalist announces that Kim Yosin, a prominent shaman of intangible cultural heritage, is performing a ritual in front of the gate, praying for the safe return of the missing individuals. The dance, embodying the wish for the warrior's safe return, emerge. She points at him, and he doesn't quite understand, and she says the portal will appear near the coordinate. So he thinks for a moment, saying that this means he will be able to, appears to be enlivening the atmosphere of the location. He also mentions that a strike force composed of the highest-ranking individuals from the Seiyu district is assembling before the dungeon for a mission, revenge. And everyone notices Kang Minryok from the Shinra Guild and Shin Junro from the Storn Guild are also present. Then, that same fanboy of the protagonist says that if only he had joined their guild, from the beginning, this wouldn't have happened. And when you're associated with the department, you just get used to things like this. Meanwhile, the guy who went from Korea to Japan is in his room when a girl grabs him, asking what he's watching and if it's South Korean television. He replies that no matter how much time passes, this country's stupid sentimentality remains the same. Meanwhile, the protagonist is in a cave with Soyoung, and she asks if it tastes good. He responds that he can buy a lot now that he's leveled up, telling her to try the sirloin sandwich. She jokes that he could open a fast food restaurant like that. He comments that it seems she really likes to eat, and the girl keeps asking if she can eat 12 times. Everything is excessive. My God in heaven, it was supposed to be just one date. Good heavens, what is all this? Does he think the last meal of the night is the last meal of his life? How long has he been doing intermittent fasting? Then she says that she's full after eating so much. He asks her why, mentioning that this is his 22nd. Man, if this crazy guy walked into a buffet that I owned, I would close the door, declare. Bankruptcy, I don't know. I'd ask him to leave, pay him to leave, anything, and she's even embarrassed to say it, but she thanks him anyway for it. He tells her she can eat. He brings up the subject again with her, asking if she used that sword to kill Ord Lork, but she says no, explaining that she passed out right there, and, when she regained consciousness, she was in the hospital, and Miss brought the meet her friends again. And she mentions that the Awakened department suspects this planet is the 4th new planet. Then she adds that if her assumption is sword, and 2 more rank mercenaries had to sacrifice themselves to barely manage to kill the monster, because Ord is an unimaginable monster, capable of defeating 5 orc warriors at the same time. And the protagonist is surprised to find an orc lord there, asking for his location. She replies that he's probably an orc castle, but there's nothing like that within a 1-kilometer radius. She explains that normally, war orcs are positioned in 4 small towers with the lord in the center, and when he breaks through the castle walls, hundreds of orcs will advance toward them in groups. So, the protagonist's fairy arrives and speaks with him, and he tells the girl that they are going to find the Orc castle. She asks if it has already happened, and he confirms that it has, and that he already told her to go ahead. She asks if he has any plan, and he replies that he's simply going to find them and kill them. Then she says she wants to hit him, but she can't think of a better plan, and with that, they get close to the castle, reaching the inner door, and several orcs emerge in search of the protagonist. So gives him the signal, and the protagonist bursts out of the woods in big dog mode, with her on top, heading into the castle. The orcs don't understand anything, and she keeps looking back, seeing that they are being pursued. Then, she tells them to go quickly, because the orc knights are on their tail. But as he approaches, the bridge begins to rise, and the orc archers begin to fire arrows at them, but she uses her shield to defend herself. And just as the bridge is almost completely raised, he manages to jump and climb over, falling inside and leaving the rest of the orcs behind. Then, she uses the defensive bomb to destroy the bridge and throws herself inside as well, and he reached the heart of the orcs' defense. Then, she tells him to run to the center, and he asks her to hold on tight while they advance, getting close to the Lord. But then, other orcs descend from the towers to, correct, South Korea will be the only country in the world with a portal to the 4th planet. The protagonist then asks her when she's graduating, and she replies that it will be in at least 99 days. He attack, but the protagonist starts to climb higher. However, the girl is grabbed by an orc and begins to fall, and he, noticing this, prepares to go back, but she tells him not to worry and to keep running forward. While she's falling, she manages to grab hold and leave them to fall on their own, returning upwards to a safe place. But she comes across 2 more orcs, so she draws her sword. Preparing for the fight, the protagonist continues advancing. The girl prepares to kill those 2 orcs, while the protagonist arrives at the top of the tower, where that 3-eyed orc lord ends up, waking up. In this, he struggles enormously as he stands up, reaching the edge of the tower. When he looks down, the protagonist attacks him, grabbing the neck of that orc lord at once and takes him up higher, continuing to bite him, almost ripping his neck off. And with that, he kills that orc lord in one fell swoop, impaling him on the tower's spire. He dies impaled, and the protagonist levels up once again. Then, he throws himself down, destroying the tower and falling on top of several other orcs. And after killing that wave of enemies, an explosion happens, and another tower collapses. The orcs look over there. Meanwhile, Soyang falls, along with a few others, and the orcs swarm around her. As she falls, she wonders if this is how it will all end. But then, Broda appears, holding the girl and saving her from the fall, holding her in his arms. She is quite surprised and asks about the orc lord. He tells her that thing is dead and tells her to leave, putting her on his back once again and leaving with her. She asks if he's serious, questioning if he really died, and Broda confirms, asking her to scan the door, and she ends up noticing that the door is open, wondering if he really killed the orc lord that quickly. She can't even believe it. And at that moment, outside, the department's agents end up picking up, questions what she wants from him, and she asks that he please not go abroad until the portal appears. He asks why, and she explains that they don't want him to become the something, and one of them gets scared, while the other asks what the problem is. He says that dungeon 127 is clear, so he shows that data to everyone outside, and the streamer, seeing that, doesn't even believe it, because that means that dungeon 127, the orc's castle, has a countdown timer for the door to break. Then Miso starts to become more hopeful, because Sue is going to get out, and everyone is rooting for her on the outside. Meanwhile, inside, the protagonist is running away from those orcs along with the girl, and he asks her if she found the door. She says that she did find it, and that it's located 700 meters past the castle walls at the 11 o'clock position. They have 10 minutes and 20 seconds until the door breaks. Then they start running, and the protagonist smells something. She asks him where he is going, because he changed direction. She tells him that they are out of time, but the protagonist still keeps changing direction, because he wants to tame something else, which the girl doesn't quite understand. Then the orc wolves become scared, and he asks them to follow him, and they actually do follow him, and she is surprised that he is leading them. The protagonist confirms, saying that from now on, they will be his. The family and the orcs are approaching from the front, and the girl warns that they are surrounded, but one of her fairies whispers in the protagonist's ear, telling him there's a small escape route nearby. And when he speaks, that's when Swang uses her radar and says there's one on the right, telling him to turn immediately. So all the wolves follow him, and the orcs, confused, follow the protagonist. She says there's an exit nearby, and the protagonist decides they'll escape through there. After passing through, they finally reach the forest, and she announces that they have 1 minute until the portal ruptures. They finally spot the door, and she announces that there are 23 seconds left. As they get closer and closer, one of the orcs throws his spear, which is about to hit the girl, and she glances back. Second El Songo. The protagonist asks who that is. Then she says that, apparently, he doesn't know about the El Songo case, and explains that the current number 1 in the world, Kitairo, whose Korean name is. As the spear flies towards them, it ends up hitting Soyoung in the back, and she falls to the ground. The protagonist is shocked as the wolves pass through the door, and when he turns around, the girl. She is still lying on the ground, feeling pain, with all those mana stones scattered around her, and she sees the protagonist approaching and asks him not to come closer, but he continues forward, picking up the spear and killing that orc, throwing him up into the air so that he falls, stinking, to the ground. Outside, they say there are 8 seconds left until the door breaks, and everyone there is counting down the remaining seconds with the same hopes, and everyone is begging the two to leave. They realize that, at this point, it means they have failed to complete the dungeon, but then that guy on the recording tells him to hit the wood, saying that the audience rating is above 60%, and if they leave now, it means they were very lucky to get this far. Inside, he finally reaches Soyoung, grabbing her, and she says that there are 4 seconds left, calling him an idiot. But he asks her to hold on tight while he summons all of his mana, which she finds strange. But in that second, he unleashes a burst of power on the call, ground so strong that all the orcs and wolves are thrown far away. And when the clock reaches 0 seconds, everyone in front of the portal is shocked as the door begins to shatter. And the orcs, looking at this, see a huge light, and this light begins to consume them, and that entire kingdom is crumbling and being destroyed. And the remaining orcs begin to die from the bada, outside. They say that, as the countdown ended, everyone was full of hope, but Parque Soro and Shoyang still haven't appeared. And then they wonder why they didn't come out, but then they notice something and the portal starts to react, with wolves pouring out of it. And they wonder if those are really wolves, because they are coming out in droves, and those people are. Summarize the story up to this point for you. Our protagonist, Park Sun-woo, was taken through a portal on an ordinary day and was thrown into another world, but not a peaceful one. El Songo was originally from Korea. The protagonist is surprised to hear this. She explains that during the early stages of the Great Disaster, the government detained and confined the returnees in the name of shocked. And then, both Prota and Soyoung are thrown from inside, with him protecting the girl as she falls. And they are surprised, asking what that was all about, because it seems that someone went flying away. Then one of them orders a quick check, and they determine it's a human. Upon arrival, they notice that Park Seoro is protecting Choi Soyoung, and everyone is euphoric seeing that both they came out alive. Does that mean they succeeded? Then the wolves begin to howl, summoning an ambulance. It's said that a miracle occurred, and the 2 people trapped in the level 5 dungeon returned alive after 4 days and 11 hours and 28 minutes. And that photo is circulated throughout the department. Kim Misu mentions that it was taken immediately after they exited the portal, and after that, they were both taken to a hospital. However, they question why they are in that position, and it's explained that the circumstances necessitated it. And these are the headlines from the articles they gathered about Seoro after the event. And everyone is placing absurd expectations on the protagonist. Director Ri mentions this, saying that the reporters are being too provocative, but Misu explains that it's because someone started congratulating the director, and he, taken aback by the jab, gets a little embarrassed and says that they are there to figure out how to resolve the situation and not to point fingers, telling her to continue the meeting. And she says that, as she mentioned, news about Sorrow Park has been spreading due to this incident, and scouts from intelligence agencies from various countries are arriving in the country. The director is shocked by those bastards, and she talks about Victor Dobby, a KGB agent from Russia, and Gorenstein, a Mossad agent from Israel, in addition to the deputy head of the Nakamura Awakened Federation. Upon hearing that name, the director gets very angry with Nakamura, asking if that idiot has come again, and Miss says yes, and that he was the one who took their sumo, protection of the nation. At the time, there wasn't much information available about irregulars. Because of this, Alasungo, who was a D-rank awakened, easily escaped upon his return. The Japanese government, from them. However, she personally thinks America is more dangerous. Then the director says that they have to secure Sorrow Park first, asking if there are more security measures besides the contract that they currently possess. And the bald man states that as long as his family remains in Korea, he will not leave. However, the director inquires about his family, questioning if he is implying that he cares more than he does about money. The bald man replies that he lived with wolves for 1,000 years, longing for his family, and conversely, he began to miss the wolves who lived with him for 1,000 years after he returned to Earth. The director then begins to think that he is a difficult person to understand, but then the doctor explains that he places more value on spending time with his family and, in a way, he is a very simple person. He instructs the director to give him a territory where he can live with his family without being invaded, and that way he will have no reason to go against the department. So the director agrees, saying they will give him some territory, and yet he still asks if they shouldn't prevent the scouts from making contact. And taking advantage of that, Misor says, "This is an abandoned factory in a place with a difficult name that I refuse to pronounce. Editor, leave it down below for anyone who wants to research it or whatever they're going to do with that information." And then the director asks where she's going with this, and she says that she thinks the best thing would be to give this area to the Sorrow Guild as their territory and mark the surrounding land as private property, a little far from the city center. So even if a portal to a new world appears, it will be relatively safe. And the director says these buildings seem okay and should be safe after some minor repairs. And he asks if Choi So-young will continue to be the person who keeps an eye on things for them. Then Misor says that Choi So-young is the person approached him when he became disillusioned with South Korea, and he subsequently went to Japan. Currently, all 9,000 gates in Tokyo are a result of Lungo's actions, and she asks if he best suited for the job. He questions if she's woken up, and Misor says she's recovering, and the director asks if she's resting after writing a report about the park. Soror and Misor discuss the report, which is simply the girl calling the protagonist a dog man, something she said about him that neither of them understands. So, the director just tells her to continue talking. Elsewhere, a kind of UFC event begins, and it's announced that it's finally time for the main event, the final fight, and everyone starts to get excited. Apparently, that guy, Sungu, appears on stage, and the presenter announces that he is the current #1 in the world, defending that title for the 21st time. The guy who remains undefeated in his 45 battles is the strongest creature on planet Earth, the hope of people living in these desperate times, the weapon created in Japan, Okita Hero. And everyone goes wild. Okita starts using both his twin swords, and acknowledging everyone's cheers, a black flame spreads from the river magic sword. The girl watches from above as he begins to perform his. He shouts all over the place, entering the arena with a flourish. And it is said that the champion arrived with his trademark, his flaming phoenix, and thus the challenger, the A-rank human weapon, a new rising star, undefeated in 13 fights. Russia's Mad Bear, Mikhail Zorbas, jumps in to face Hero, and so he immediately goes all out, telling Hero that his era ended right there. So, while Hero dodges the attacks, Zorbas keeps saying he's a miserable little mouse running away and uses his mana machine gun, and it is said that the shots from the mana machine gun are randomly hitting the iridium barrier, protecting the audience, and Hero is dodging them all with incredible speed. Zorbas starts to aim, knows what the dimensional industry is, and points out that if a portal appears while he's off on vacation, Korea will suffer a significant loss. He then understands the situation and questions what he will at him with the mana bazooka, firing that beam towards Hero, who dodges beautifully, leaping into the air. And so they are surprised. Then Hero starts to counterattack, using his swords. And it is said that Hero's sword aura is rapidly attacking him, but Orbus counterattacks with his machine gun, and Hero attacks once again with his aura sword. He manages to block it, but then, the machine guns begin to shatter as they get closer and closer. Then Orbus uses a mana sword, trying to hit Hero, who jumps over it, running away from the sword as it falls behind him, and turning and moving quickly around Zorbas, until he manages to launch chains from his weapons, trapping Hero with these chains. But even so, Hero remains very calm, and Zorbas thinks he has won, saying that he caught him, and that he will go all out to crush him. But then Hero talks about the 7th villain, Mikhail, and tells Zorbas that he is already dead. Then Zorbas starts bleeding from every part of his body and falls backward, and everyone is surprised as he is defeated and lies on the ground, and they wonder how this happened, because Zorbas fainted. Zorbas, who was in a series of victories, he began spitting blood on the floor, and the judge called for a break. Doctors started rushing in, saying they were trying to heal him, but he wasn't moving, until the judge spoke with the announcer, delivering the verdict that he was unable to return to the fight. And so, he wins, defending his title for the 22nd time. And when he returns to the elevator with his team, they ask if the technique he used today was something new. He says he just threw his sword aura at Zorbas and released it. They say it was an attack that no one expected, and he tells everyone that it was a good job, saying that they are going out for drinks afterward. And when he goes back to that girl, she runs to grab him, asking if Sero killed him. Receive in return for this. So she asks him to tell her exactly what he wants. And the protagonist finally gets what he has been wanting for quite some time. He states that he wants the Sero Guild to be promoted, and also an exclusive territory. He says that, considering that Zorbas would be one of the 7 villains in the future, he did the right thing, but the girl tells him not to try to do everything alone. He thanks her, but asks her if something out of the ordinary occurred. She inquires about it, mentioning that aside from a call to the department, nothing significant happened. Oita asks if the director made the call, and she confirms it. She told him to be careful and not get hurt. Then she says they're going to get ready and leave because everyone must be waiting for them. At that moment, she remembers that some time ago, she heard that the person trapped in the level 5 dungeon successfully escaped. He's surprised, and she says that people are saying he will be Korea's second Lungo, and they seem to have high expectations for him. There are also reports indicating that his defense department is very interested in him. Oita wonders who he is, and she says it seems his name is Park Soro, asking if he doesn't remember the guy who reporters reported was trapped in a level 5 dungeon. She's already gathered all the information about him, assuming he would be interested. And when he sees that, he says he doesn't remember him, which surprises the girl. Then, he asks if he happened to awaken as a swordsman, and she replies that the swordsman hasn't appeared in a year, saying that, from what she's heard, he is a druid, and if he is indeed a returnee from another planet, they say it's a chance for Earth to connect with a 4th planet. So, Kita thinks about it quite a bit, but she says he's just an F rank, and wonders if it's incredible, since she thought he already knew that. However, Kita thinks this is impossible. After all, he is in his 25th regression. He repeated the same event again and again and again for about 500 years, and as a consequence, he remembers all the awakened who will make a name for themselves in the Markeler for his guild. The other streamer is completely shocked by this request. She asks if he desires anything else, instructing him to write everything down on a piece of paper, but he clarifies that he didn't request the paper. Future, and he also has a general outline of the biggest events that will happen, but Park Soro is not on that list. In all that time, no one named Park Soro has ever stood out, not even once, except for the one who returned from another planet. And while the story changes slightly depending on his actions, there's also a limit to the butterfly effect. For example, one of the 7 villains who is supposed to show their villainy in 10 years suddenly dies here, or someone who should have died 2 years ago remains safe and sound. These are things that can fall under the butterfly effect. But major events, like when a level 7 dungeon appeared or when the planet was connected to another planet, never change, and this is supposed to happen in 5 years, and a new planet won't appear before then. I don't know why, but I had a slight impression that it would be a returnee's spiel. These guys are a pain. I wonder what it must be like for other people when a protagonist or returnee develops the belief of constantly returning. And here, he asks if it wouldn't be better to bring that guy, P. Saru, to his side, asking what Okita thinks. He says he doesn't know about it, and Kiko thinks that's strange, considering he's still supposedly the most popular person in Korea. But Kita says he will wait a little longer, remembering the future, and states that the apocalypse will begin soon. Cities that had been survivor strongholds after the cataclysm were destroyed one by the various dungeon outbreaks across the continent and the monster waves pouring out of them. Monsters dominated the land and the sky. Faced with imminent death on the continent, a mass exodus began. During the Long War, everything was forgotten, as the heroes who arose from among the awakened Asians and the displaced placed their last hopes on it. That place was Japan, and that was why he decided to build his base there, even though he was being called a traitor. More importantly, she asks him to tell her, and he questions how she knows when the portals are about to appear. She responds that an agent specializing in dimensional energy disruption will be, and if he deals with the dungeons in Japan, alongside the talented people who will show their true abilities in the future, this island nation will be the best place for survivors to live. He remembers when people arrived in Japan and thinks to himself that the survivors in Korea don't call them traitors, but heroes. And remembering this brings a small smile to his face, and Kiko finds that strange. He says he still thinks this is all just a spectacle, and she asks him about that, and he confirms, saying that the protagonist is a fraud. But she asks Sue about that guy, mentioning that he wasn't just from her defense department. Okita says that if he continues to live after the apocalypse begins, it won't be too late to bring him to them, so he wants to wait and observe. Meanwhile, Misu goes to Soyoung, who is reading, and then Misu asks if it doesn't hurt to be like that, but she says that it does hurt, and then Misu sits down, saying that it doesn't look like she's in pain, but she insists that it does hurt. However, Misu mentions that there is a rumor circulating around the hospital that a masked man comes every night and leaves at dawn, making her wonder if he's Zoro, and the girl is there reading the ebook called He Really Loves Me. So she asks if she bought it, and Misor says that she is a lucky dog, and says that she sent a guy over for her and also bought food. While putting everything there, Soyoung starts to complain, saying that she asked for Guinness and not this. But Misor says that both are black, but Soyoung says that the chicken was also black, and it wasn't this one, saying it was Olivia's yellow one, and starts complaining about everything Misor bought, saying she doesn't like any of it, telling her to just eat, ready to beat the girl up. And after throwing everything down, she gets a full belly, and says that now that she's full, she should go to work, dispatched. She's the department's top agent, and Prota becomes curious about this top agent. Meanwhile, Blonde recalls Prota bluntly asking her to do both without even wondering why she is lying there, and Soyoung says she's just going to take a nap for an hour, but Misor doesn't like it at all, and threatens her again, so she sends her back to work. Meanwhile, in CIA headquarters, everyone is watching the news about Hiro, who defeated the orcs once and for all, and one of them comments that no matter who it was, they were still just orcs, and to think he would be defeated so easily is too much. And they notice that it seems like Hiro keeps getting stronger at this rate, and SSS rank might appear soon, so they ask where Sor went. However, one of them says that it's not like he went somewhere. These photos were recently taken by their agents, and that bald guy asks where this is, wondering if it's Seoul Station, questioning what he is doing there. And the other one says that he's been visiting that place quite a lot lately. He questions why, asking if Suarua Park is lonely. He asks if he's talking to pigeons or something, even joking if it doesn't look like he got dumped, but the guy doesn't like that at all, saying he can introduce him to several beautiful women, saying that they can't let anyone steal Soar Park from them, no matter what, asking if he understands what they mean. And the assistant says that his agents, specials left for Korea this morning, but he fears something, and the superior asks what he's afraid of, and he says that the airways don't seem to be very good at the moment, and he questions this, asking what's wrong with them. And then, inside a flight, a little girl looks out the window, noticing something catching her mother's attention, saying that there's a little bird. She asks about that, and when she looks, she's startled, seeing that it's a monster flying next to the plane. And that monster starts shouting at the plane as if it wants to intimidate it, and everyone looks outside while Annie whines to accompany it, and she gets irritated with him, asking if he needs to blow off some steam on the punching bag. Everyone watching is surprised that the girl is. A girl says that this bird looks strange, but they notice that it's following the plane. However, one of them asks if that isn't a wyvern, and the other, seeing that it's a young one, thinks that nothing will happen. However, they wonder what a wyvern is doing there, and if a wyvern dungeon might have appeared by chance. They decide it's best to hire Quagia when they arrive. But then, another thinks that if a wyvern dungeon broke, something even worse will appear, and this something worse, much bigger than the plane, appears right above them. It immediately shows it's not kidding around, spitting a blast of fire on top of the plane. The pilot starts sending a mayday, reporting that American Flight 758 is under attack by an unidentified flying creature. But, at that moment, the plane explodes and begins to fall, while Aini remains on the ground, watching his prey fall to its death. He continues flying until he encounters another flock of wyverns, and so breaking news is broadcast, reporting that 2 days ago, while flying over Siberia, a group of wyverns escaped during a dungeon break, and along with the protagonist's guild, the streamer says it looks like they're in the middle of nowhere, then asks if they've arrived yet, and John looks ahead, asking if that isn't the place. The streamer questions if that's not a house. It's haunted, and the protagonist asks where it is, and he says it's the one in front of him, the 2-story house, and the Mon, seeing that, starts to pray, because the house they gave to the protagonist is simply horrible, and the streamer thinks it really is a haunted house. And they all start complaining about it, asking if this is really going to be their guild headquarters, saying that it's not a place where humans can actually live, saying it's an abandoned house. and the streamer wonders if the net guy will want to put the dormitory there, while the girl, acting like that again, and she continues to beat the punching bag, full of hatred for Prota, for something that the poor guy has nothing to do with. She even says she should have thrown him in jail for sexual, thinks she just saw a ghost on the second floor, and the complaints continue as So-young says she can't live in a place like that, but then she tells the girl to stay. Quietly, she mentions that the protagonist must be a little surprised, since it's his first time in a place like this. He asks about it, and she replies that the renovation will start tomorrow, so he doesn't need to worry about anything. But he asks why, because he really liked the place, saying that he could move in right now if it were up to him. But Yang asks if he's crazy, and he doesn't understand at all. And so, she says that a man with wild instincts is truly perceptive, and they mention that they will define the boundaries of the territory, but he doesn't quite understand. And she says that he can decide how much of the earth he can take care of, and so he begins to invoke his aura, stating that the area he can manage is what his ability will define. And several tree spirits emerge from him, and he defines the boundaries with his spirits. Then, Miss asks what he's doing, and Swang replies that she herself told him to define the boundaries of the land. Then she sees the spirits of a tree plunges into the ground, creating several more trees around it, forming a forest. Everyone is surprised because the protagonist is building a wall of trees. They all think it's incredible. Ordering them to look at the size of those trees, an immense wall was built. The protagonist says it's over, stating that it should have a perimeter of 1 kilometer with the house in the center. They will delimit the land up to that point, and she says it looks great, adding that, from now on, that area will be designated as the Soro Guild's territory, and everything within the territory belongs to the Soro Guild. But he asks Miss if they aren't being too generous, considering he only needs to stay in the country for a few months. She replies that they are simply following protocol and, besides, completely ridiculous and absurd world, astonishing and beyond. However, after 1,000 and who knows how many years in that world, he became the strongest of the strong and dominated everything through the power of hatred. Harassment. Ines, that same department manager, goes to her asking who Joe Ken is, and she says she doesn't know, telling her she's annoyed and to leave her alone. But then she asks, furthermore, her department considers Soro as family, which the protagonist says he liked. Then she asks him to sign the contract, and he immediately grabs the pen to sign it. But So-young asks him to wait, telling him that he needs to read those documents carefully first. Kim-soo gets irritated with the girl and stops her immediately, saying that he just needs to sign and be done with it. Just draws a wolf on the freaking paper. Man, I can't take it anymore. Every time he does that, I'm never prepared for something like this. I'm never ready. And she thanks him for his cooperation, saying that this is his copy, and that they will do their best until the portal opens. And the protagonist says that, of course, he will keep his promise. So, she asks him to trust in the government, getting into the car and preparing to leave, telling Choi So-young not to mess around, and she tells them to send a renovation team tomorrow, or else she's leaving. And Milson doesn't like the girl's attitude at all. She asks what's wrong, sticking her tongue out at her. As she leaves, Milson mentions that this girl is becoming more and more of a problem, but in this scene, the driver questions whether such a vast territory can be defended by so few people. Missa replies that, if they fail to do so, it will be used as justification to deploy her personnel. She then orders a list of attack units above level 5 to be compiled and prepared. Meanwhile, out at sea, some pirates spot a ship carrying cargo, and believing they've struck gold, open fire. The people inside the ship immediately begin broadcasting a mayday, identifying themselves as Queen Coral Esmeralda, and stating that they are under attack by pirates of unknown origin, requesting immediate assistance. However, it's revealed to be the SSO, Ri Dong unit, receiving the "when is she ever not angry?" So, Laura tells her to stop trying to pick a fight, asking what she wants, and she says that Laura is going on a mission and asks about that mission. Emerald Queen's location. They estimate the rescue team will arrive in 2 hours and 45 minutes. If the pirates manage to board the ship, they are instructed to shut down the engines and remain in the same position for as long as possible. But the pirates arrive too quickly and send another mayday, reporting that they are boarding the ship and giving their coordinates, as several of them are coming aboard. Then, they order the crew to shut down the engines, turning everything off and hiding in the engine room. But then something starts to rock the ship, and they find it strange and don't understand what is happening. While the ship is rocking, all the pirates on the ship's side are thrown into the air, and the captain doesn't understand anything until he sees one of the legs of an octopus and that giant octopus starts wrapping itself around the ship, preparing to sink it as it departs. The captain, falling below deck, sees what is happening and sees the mouth of an octopus, giant, about to swallow him, and that huge thing wipes out the crew of all those vessels. And actually, it turns out to be a shark that appears to have dreadlocks instead of a dorsal fin, and the people are still pulling that vessel down, and several sharks begin to appear. A helicopter flies over the area along with the reinforcements that Reign Esmeralda requested, and they report that they have arrived at the coordinates sent by Queen Coral Esmeralda. After searching a 16 kilometers area, there is no sign of the ship, and he requests that a search team be dispatched to his location, currently. But at that moment, the same people who took down Reign Esmeralda attack the rescue team. Meanwhile, the protagonist is freeing all of his fairies, and they fly up a tree, gigantic in the territory, and begin to bless the entire area. And their house is already much better after the renovation, now looking like a habitable home. And during the morning, Swang's cell phone doesn't. Wanting to know a little more, I'm starting to feel like you're going to be placed side by side with the mating partner. And, after reading the details of the mission, she already starts to stop ringing, and the girl finally answers it. While still sleepy, he says that she must be having a lot of fun. She asks why he is saying that, since she is still service, but she asks if she is with Perot at the moment. She says no, stating that she doesn't even know where he is. Then Misor calls her lazy, asking her what she wants, saying she doesn't know, pointing out that the sun is already up and she still hasn't gotten up, and thinks that this brat really is no good for anything. And the girl will make coffee while he stays, looking at the Prota's tree, and so she thinks that he really planted a lot in a short period of time, seeing that it is becoming a gigantic world tree. And at that moment, the wolves begin to run around the place, and Prota observes each of them, and the system sends him a bunch of messages, and Prota names one of them Talk Book. But on the wolf's record, there is a warning that if the dimensional energy of that wolf is greater than his, it may lose its mind when it is fused. And so he thinks he can't keep raising the wolf's level too much, and the girl goes to him, asking what he's doing. He's surprised she's already awake and says he was naming the new members of his family, so she doesn't understand anything about him calling the wolves his family, of the family, and she says that he should have woken her up and asks why he went alone. Just then, Big Go runs to them, and she is surprised because he is growing bigger with each passing day, asking about the others. And the protagonist says that everyone left early in the morning and probably went to Mora, and the girl realizes that they're working hard, even though it's so warm. Then, he asks her if she wants to take a walk to cool off, and she questions his suggestion. But the protagonist simply merges with Bakato so she can get on, and the girl asks if he's already 9, Tremble, asking why it has to be her. So, the manager says it's because she's the right person for the job, but she keeps asking why. And the manager says it's because she's the best in the finished playing gardener, and he says he'll show her, and she asks if he wants to brag about what he did. Then, he tells her to hold on tight as he takes off with her at high speed. Absurd. And she starts asking him to slow down, just a little bit, because otherwise she won't be able to contain herself and might lose her shoe along the way. Meanwhile, in another corner, at the entrance to, some guys are waiting. They note that there's nothing to report there since the weather is so hot it's unbearable. They mention that headquarters instructed them to report any news, but haven't left the house in 2 months, and they're asking if anyone has crossed the boundary line. But one of them asks if they can't see the cameras right there. The military will be dispatched immediately, but he'll probably be eaten by wolves before the soldiers even arrive. And so, they say that since nobody knows when the portal will open, 2 units are stationed nearby, and they explain that the restrictions are in place to prevent reporters and scouts from foreign countries from entering. After that, the Soro clan's car departs from there. Within, they ask if it's the park, but he didn't leave in that car, the rest of the guild did. Then Junar says it's too hot, but the reporters are relentless. And the streamer says that, honestly, he doesn't know if it's Dongso TV or the Soro channel, but when he opens the channel, he gets a shock, asking himself, what the heck is this? A rock question. What is this all about? But he says it's nothing, and thinks to himself, seeing donations from the United States, Japan, Russia, England, wondering why there are so many foreign donations, questioning how much all of that amounts to, and he says it's at least 4 billion won. The highest donations appear to be from foreign and influential scouts, wondering if he should tell Soro about it or not. But, while they are, Equipe de detecção, e ela começa a ficar irritada.com. A superior mas pergunta o que acha que vai acontecer. Se portal abrir no meio da cidade, quando ainda não sabem que tipo de planeta é. Running, they see Sorang, with her running on his back alongside the wolves, and she waves to them. The streamer calls her sister-in-law and a strange roach, and the girl already threatens, hits him, and he says that they live, sleep, and do everything in the same house, so he is his sister-in-law. He mentions that his father-in-law never gives him a ride, claiming that he is the best, and that's how they realize who he is. Too fast, and even past the car. He asks Jungo to step on the gas, because they can't afford to lose, and the car really goes all out and bumps into the protagonist. They say that if they lose, the loser pays for the gas tank, Soyaki, so they turn on sport mode, saying that it's like cheating. However, while they are betting on the race, Swang notices something and talks to the protagonist, who asks if she felt it too. She says, yes. Then she says that she is sensing a dimensional rift within a 200 meters radius. At that moment, she starts to remember when she was still bedridden, asking the protagonist what kind of planet he visited, and he says it was the animal kingdom. Then she asks if there were really only animals there. He says yes, recalling an unimaginable place, full of hostile creatures, with dimensional energy greater than 700. The girl is frightened when he talks about this level of dimensional energy, explaining that it's a place where fights for territory and survival are endless, until one side is defeated. And to be the leader of a group, you need to at least be ranked. Even after becoming king, he had to accept challenges for hundreds of years, and she thinks that with the bridge portal connected to the planet, restricted passage is possible for both sides. And if that's the case, as Soro says, this place will become a war zone where they will fight against hostile beings from another world, a war against beasts above S rank, and the dimensional energy will increase. And Mensor asks if they think Park Soro's planet will be friendly. So, she immediately thinks it will be hell, predicting the chaos that will ensue. The superior says that if she sees signs of a dimensional tear, she must take Park Soro and leave the field with them, but the director says that if there's high risk, there's high return, asking what she's worried about, since Park Soro was the king there. And she asks if he can't control them, asking why, since he said he was a king there, and that his current self was not the same as before, wondering if they wouldn't want to kill him if they saw how weak he had become. Yeah, right? What can you do? Who would want to be commanded by someone weak and stupid, right? Who would want that? Imagine being commanded and led by the most important person in the country, and that person is weak and stupid. It's complicated. She gets irritated, wondering if that makes sense. So she tells him to run at top speed to the northeast field, saying that they have to stay as far away from the city center as possible. As they run off into the woods, the rest of the guild asks where they are going. Then they say they are going to follow, and as they head that way, the dimensional break starts to happen, and she says it's starting, and the space is starting to distort. But Prota finds something strange. Soyoung calls Miss, and she asks why she is calling, and Soyoung says that the portal is about to form, which surprises her. Soyoung orders the portal's location to be sent to the guard units, and everyone gathers there to witness its opening and prepare themselves, to prepare to fire in case anything happens, stating that the capital's 1st Division and artillery have completed their firing preparations. And so, the protagonist approaches the portal and senses something, realizing that this isn't the planet he was on, and that it's just a regular portal. The girl finds it strange, and asks how he can be so sure without using any equipment, but the protagonist stops in front of it, saying that the feeling is different from when he crossed over before. However, she points out that the portal he crossed was a teleportation portal, and the advance. And until then, she shouldn't leave his side at any time, constantly asking if he understands what she's saying. And Blonde starts to get irritated, saying that she swears she will write a letter of returnees sometimes use those, so it might feel different. At that moment, she says that now that she thinks about it, the dimensional energy of the teleportation portal that Park Soro, she crossed through a gate that was larger than a portal bridge, and she says that at the time, it was enough to make her think the device had broken, and she still suspected something was wrong with her intuition, and she says it's true. Her intuition is telling her that it's not as dangerous as last time, but still, in any case, this is a dungeon portal. But she wonders if it really is a dungeon portal. But outside, some people are wondering if this is a sign of a dimension break, and they think they are right. The other person sees that it is the detection department arriving, and the helicopter unit has also been sent, and it appears that a portal has actually opened, wondering if it is really a portal from a new planet. And that portal opens in front of the Soyoung post, and she confirms that it is indeed a dungeon portal. She thinks to herself that Soro has better intuition than she does, even though she has the best ability, the country's detection capabilities, even though he doesn't have a detection ability himself. But then, the others arrive, and the streamer excitedly asks if it's a new planet, but the others who arrive behind him scare him and Detection Team 11, and they will begin installing the measuring devices. So, they ask what the devices are for, and they explain that it's to calculate the level of the dungeon and the time until it breaks open. And then, they get closer to find out more and see the number 4,280. And so, the computer nerd explains that it's a level 4 dungeon, a low level of danger, but, in this case, the protagonist thinks this one will work and becomes calmer. However, Soyoung says that, according to Soro, that's not where he came from, and thinks they need to go inside and check it out first. Resignation. But meanwhile, at Junro's house, he is totally distraught, thinking the guys are on the ceiling, desperate, until his son calls him to come eat. And when he sits down, and in this scene, the director is surprised that it's just a level 4 dungeon, and so, she says she's still not sure. And first, they will determine if the dungeon is newly created and where he originated from, leaving a member of the Detection Team 11, who has a memory-related ability, instead of going with them. And the director thinks this will really drive him nuts, asking if she's aware of how much money they've poured into this. Then she says it's serious, and that they're still unsure, stating that the level of skill Park Soro has shown so far isn't that of a mere level 4. He says that the first portal to appear near someone who's just returned is a dungeon portal. So, they're dungeon returnees, asking if she knows who trusted them and invested in this. Then she asks if they didn't invest in this possibility, saying that Park Soro has great value simply because he's an irregular. However, the director says that, whether or not the news that Park Soro is a dungeon returnee leaks, all the hype surrounding the new planet will be ruined. However, Misson tells him to use the inspection as an excuse and stall for time at them, and she gets pissed. And with that, the director orders him to find a solution, because if they can't recoup their investment, they're done for. And then, they find out that the dungeon will break in 50 days, and Soo-young tells Misu to send the military unit back, since it's only 50 days, but Prota says that will also work, and the nerd over there doesn't understand. He questions it. Then he says that Prota would have to clear the level 4 dungeon multiple times a day, asking if that wouldn't be difficult given their current number of members. But he says it's not difficult, then says it looks good, asking about the price. He asks if he's talking about the dungeon's energy measuring device and says that it's the equipment that He asks why the streamer is so happy. He says that they managed to pass the test to promote the clan, and now they can also get level 2 weapons. And the protagonist thinks that majority of guilds possess, but the latest model currently costs around 3 billion, and Prota thinks it's obvious, and he confirms, but he was recently notified about permanently renting the Wano. He presents him with equipment as a gift and asks him to sign the contract. However, the protagonist inquires about a signing bonus, questioning why they are giving him these things. And so, the nerd is a little embarrassed and says that even if he isn't a returnee from a new planet, the department would never mistreat him. And, from what they understand, he's recently been contacted by a lot of foreign countries. However, the protagonist still finds it odd, and the nerd asks him to please understand that the Korean department truly considers him family, since he is the treasure of their country. That's what he was instructed to convey. And the protagonist asks about these foreign countries, saying he hasn't received any messages, and the nerd realizes he shouldn't have mentioned it. Then, the streamer approaches the protagonist, saying that, to be honest, he needs to speak with him privately, adding that, right now, the competition to acquire him is quite fierce in the other teens of Aklar's exterior, and since he doesn't use the internet much, he's been getting a lot of donations. And in his opinion, staying on the fence and not committing to anything is something he still doesn't quite grasp, as well as how to deal with it. So, Prota asks how much it costs, and Don S says it should be around 5 billion WS. And so, he talks with Don S, saying that no matter how much he likes money, they shouldn't become slaves to it. As he lives his life, he'll realize that having someone you can talk to is better than 5 billion won, and DS says that he will keep these words in mind. But he tells Prota that they want to show him what they are offering, so he has to at least show 3 of them, and Prota considers this, but that is good. And June says that if they want to go into more level 2 areas, they have to be a D-rank group, but they're still short on personnel at the moment, and he wonders if it wouldn't be. Danu asks if they won't send assassins just because he showed them. He tells him to say that he showed it, but ignored it, and also asks him to take the times Junro times to change his clothes and come back. DS, with Korda, says that he will take a portion of the donations and send the remainder to the guild treasury. Then, he tells Korda to do whatever she wants while he heads towards the portal, and DS thinks that he is really generous and that he's totally his type, thinking, hold on, crazy, calm down, just because money is involved doesn't mean you have to open up like that, like a flower. And he says that when he is with Ryong, it seems like money flies into his pocket, and mentions he just earned 3.6 billion ONS. At that point, Prota says that if everyone is ready, they will enter, but the nerd asks them to wait, because a combat team from the department is coming and requesting that they wait so they can go together. However, Prota refuses, which the nerd doesn't quite understand, and Prota says that if he needs to mobilize someone for inspection, as stipulated in the contract, he will only allow 2 people, but they cannot participate in the hunt, and so Soyoung agrees, telling him not to worry. Don't worry, because they're going to get in. But then, Nerd tells her that it's still only a level 4 dungeon, asking if that number of people will be enough, and she tells him that all he needs to do is record everything, and so he agrees and goes inside. And Baiko runs over to the protagonist, and he agrees with the little puppy, saying that he should go and work a little too. And so they prepare to enter, and when they pass through the portal and enter a location, Soyoung asks the protagonist what he thinks, asking if this is the place. He says he's not really sure either, and so she uses her skill. Then the protagonist says that something seems a little familiar, but it's still not right. And so, that nerd asks if it's okay for them to just walk around like that, questioning whether they shouldn't. But then, out of nowhere, he ended up being spat back onto Earth again, and was treated like he was crazy. He lost his powers, met a blonde, beat the blonde in a fight, set up a guild, and better to go all out in the level 1 areas for now. And the streamer says he's not wrong, but as long as they have Soro, he's sure that the level 2 areas will also be a little more cautious. However, Don S says that Soro is in the lead, he just has to follow him. However, Soyoung tells them to stop abruptly, and everyone gets scared, and she says it's a group of 3 monsters is 70 meters ahead. Don So gets ready to fight, and the nerd asks if that will be enough, which starts to irritate the fearful kid. Something emerges from the trees, and John R starts to get excited, smiling like a psychopath. The nerd asks why he's acting like that, and Don Su is speechless. So, John Ro goes all out, completely excited, but Prota puts him to sleep to save his brother's life. The nerd doesn't understand anything, and Prota tells him to wake Junro up and give him a sedative, so Don So immediately runs to do it. Then, the nerd asks why they are acting like this. So explains that he has a disease that makes him insane whenever he holds a blade. Then, they start administering the medicine, trying to wake him up, and Prota continues forward until he tells everyone to move away. From behind one of those plants, a monster appears. A strange, multi-eyed fellow who certainly doesn't look like he's from the protagonist's planet appears. Then, more of those things show up, and they identify them as lizard men. At that point, they order the defensive perimeter to be activated while the protagonist charges in, and the nerd starts recording the protagonist taking down those things, killing them with a single attack. He can deal with them quite easily, as the monsters don't seem to be that strong. And so, he earns 84 achievement points for each one. The nerd is left wondering about his reaction speed, questioning if it's even real. And so, the protagonist calls Don So and John R, telling them not to forget the spoilers. The 2 of them then rush to the corpse to do what he told them to do, but they start complaining to Juna, papaya with sugar. But the pro says that first they're going to make money in level 1 dungeons and then level up using skill books. And after that, when they're ready, because he's stabbing the thing, spraying blood everywhere. And the nerd comments that Junro seemed normal outside, but he turned into a psychopath the moment he picked up the knife. Soyoung tells him to just move on already, and Prota says that, starting from the next time, he's going to start sending them alive, telling them to stay alert, but the 2 in the back are just glazed over while staring at those stones. And so, the nerd asks what he's talking about, asking if he's going to send the lizard men, who are at least C rank, to the newbie and the psychopath while they are still alive. And Prota talks to Beg and tells them to go into the forest and bring some more back, and the nerd again doesn't understand anything, because the puppy left alone, and he asks if this isn't animal abuse, questioning what they're going to do if hundreds of monsters come running there, talking to the team leader, asking if they're going to be okay, but she, once again, tells him to just keep recording, and the 2 in the back notice that they are coming, and the nerd gets scared, while Jun R remains completely psychopathic, and he sees that that guy is, once again, he's freaking out. And so Don tries to give John another tranquilizer, but once again, it doesn't work. He goes at him like a crazy person. And so Prota asks Danoa to act quickly, and Bake heads towards them, while running from the spears thrown by those things. Then Joao Ra throws one of his daggers, killing the first, and goes after the second. However, Prota, seeing that he certainly wasn't going to achieve much, goes ahead, catches the monster, weakens it, and allows both Junro and BG-gu to get some experience by killing it. And BG-gu gains 14 more bite strength, and the nerd shouts for Zhuao-Ru to be careful, as the monster is about to bite his head off. When Prota looks back, DS does his. They're going to split up the teams and attack, and get more members if necessary. And they all understand until the streamer notices someone coming, and there's a bunch of Miljing arriving over there, and he greets them, landing a shot on that monster and stopping the attack. And after that shot, he fires a few more and manages to reduce that thing's health even further. So Zhuao Ra just needs to finish it off, that monster breaking into several pieces. And so, their teamwork pays off, and Danso finally reaches level 9. Seeing this, Nerd speaks to Soyoung, asking if this is a level 4 dungeon, and she wonders if he thinks it's a level 3 dungeon. He asks if everything is alright, because he's carelessly overreacting since everyone there is too happy. She says that's why she told him to focus on recording and stop talking so much. He simply agrees, and so Bugo heads forward, while they tell Soro that enemies are coming from all directions. As soon as he turns around, he sees a monster emerging from the woods and runs toward it, along with 2 others, each coming from a different direction. Meanwhile, outside, a car arrives, and all those reporters crowd around, and one of them says good morning to Kim So, but she speaks to T, asking what he's doing there, and questioning if he wants to die, telling him to get out of there. Ahead, he says he'll leave if she tells him something, and she asks what that is. He says he just saw Captain Lee's combat team entering, but Miss asks what the problem is. He says that if it's Liminu's combat team, it means it's a level 4 team, and he figures that the dungeon that appeared must be a level 4 dungeon, and she doesn't have much of a response. How to respond, and he sees it in her eyes. So, she tells them to quickly get out of the way, and he thanks her, because she couldn't bluff, and ended up revealing the information, so they think it was a waste of time and question what she said. He says he is a returnee from a level 4 dungeon, and tells everyone to gather their things because they are going to clear that one. Everyone asks if he's already eaten, and he says yes, just calling everyone together so they can leave. And when they go, they enter the portal, and another team starts paying attention to the Prota's team. Little act they're putting on. As she goes inside, her driver asks if this is confidential information and what she will do if it leaks, but she questions what do you think is more important, superiors playing with money or Soro Park? But the driver doesn't quite understand, and she says that if they tell everyone that Soro Park is a returnee dungeon, flies will no longer be attracted. However, the driver asks if she will be alright, because, according to the director, this will cause trouble. But she says that's why they are on their way to find a solution. And so, Combat Team 13 prepares to enter, and Captain Lee is at the front, asking if everything is ready, and says they're going to smash some monsters in there. But then, a guy arrives, calling out to Lingong, asking him to wait a bit, saying that they were told to wait, and he questions what that guy is talking about. My friend, if you enter that dungeon to kill the protagonist's monsters and the protagonist's group, I don't think you'll ever leave. Inelson Misson arrives, greeting him with a good morning. Misong asks what's going on, and she tells him that he can't enter right now. He questions, what do you mean, I can't? She replies that, first and foremost, as long as Park Soro hasn't agreed to cooperate with the combat team, the crossing won't be permitted. So he questions this decision, asking what kind of nonsense she's spouting to a team that had to reschedule their plans to rush all the way there. She explains that some things have happened, which is why, but he says there's clearly a flaw in the contract's clause and asks if it makes sense to go, with only a reconnaissance team and no combat team. She responds that that's why they need to amend the contract, and that she came there to resolve this issue. There's also, and that guy sees Soro shouting to him. Prota doesn't quite understand and notices that we are Sheik, saying that she hasn't seen him in a long time. He says he heard that he set up the clan, and something related to the director, but he asks why everything is so complicated. She suggests that they continue the conversation in the car. Meanwhile, the director is already seeing the news that the protagonist has been revealed as a level 4 dungeon returnee. He asks his boss not to worry about where the money will be going. Then, he speaks with the minister, telling him that there seems to have been a misunderstanding and that they need to investigate a few more things before releasing a formal statement. As he hangs up, he thinks this is driving him crazy and wonders why they still haven't been able to contact Kim. Meanwhile, the doctor learns that the protagonist is from a level 4 dungeon and thinks that the dream of a new era for Korea has been destroyed, believing there will be yet another twist, and that the protagonist's life is like watching a primetime soap opera. But then he remembers something the protagonist was telling him, that before discovering the fruits in the trees, he hid on the coast and had plenty of food in the sea. But it didn't take him long to realize that it wasn't a place where he could live, because he stumbled upon something, spotting enormous crustaceans emerging from the sea. He explicitly mentioned the existence of a sea, and there's no way a sea and a level 4 dungeon can coexist. This suggests there's still a possibility, given the prevailing theory about the origin of dungeons, that a dungeon forms when a planet shatters. He also recalls when the protagonist spoke about his little brother being alive, requesting help in finding him. He assures him that everything is all right, but states a condition. He wants to know about the events that transpired in the 500 years after he becoming the king of wolves, his war against the gorilla tribe, and the time he reigned as the true king of the forest. He wanted him to recount everything, because Prota asks about how many of his friends from back then are around. Then he gets a little serious, and Soro doesn't quite understand. He just says that they're fine. Then he asks why he's in a group. He stated that he would tell him after finding his brother. Consequently, he reflects on the F-rank returnee, who is essentially an ordinary person claiming to have spent hundreds of years as the king of the jungle. Would you believe him? He thinks it's a shame he missed out on hearing a much more interesting story because of a rushed decision. Meanwhile, Prota is killing countless lizard men over there, calmly chopping them to pieces. And as he continues his killing spree, the nerd is surprised by the insane way he dealt with an action ambush. Then Prota asks what his problem is with them helping with the spoilers, and so they leave that dense forest and head to another area. Soyoung asks what that is, because that place is strangely beautiful. Don Sor says that shiny stone looks like a gem, but it also seems to emanate a dark aura. Prota says he's never been there before, but asks why some things seem familiar. Then they notice that it's Hangul, the Korean writing system. They go over to read it, and it says he will never return. Leopard territory. Seeing this, the protagonist remembers something. Soyoung keeps asking if this is one of Damso's pranks, then says if it isn't, that's fine. And she also asks Nerd if he's recording. He says he hasn't missed a thing. Then she asks why there's one of times those times in a place like times this asterisk, and turning around, sees the protagonist heading somewhere else. Miss Yang tells everyone to follow, and he enters, discovering a cave. They're surprised to find a cave where Kele is supposed to be, sensing that something is about to happen, and the protagonist leads them to another place. They think he's crazy, seeing all kinds of writing in the glowing cave, and they notice it's all written in Hangul, and wonder. From one day, everyone back there keeps calling Jakie. He looks back, clearly unhappy, and tells Soro that he has to go. He promises R that they will talk later, and Prota tells him not to forget if there's a Korean living here, since the walls are covered in phrases on all sides. Damso then sees that someone wants to go home, wants to eat chicken, and also wants to eat stew, asking if that crazy guy who lived there thinks he's some dungeon version of Robinson Crusoe. And the nerd realizes he's saying he misses people. You can tell the guy really wanted to do it. This about snow, because he engraved it in stone, and they think this crazy person is depraved enough to write indecent things there. And Donor goes to look, noticing that this guy is practically insane with desire. And they say they can't deal with that immaturity, and mention there are drawings there too. And Dono asks about those fire mushrooms. And among the phrases, the person says that he misses people he used to hate, missing his mom and dad, whom he used to hate, and also missing his little brother, Junro. And Don S. thinks Junro's name is also written there. And Junro himself sees that his brother wrote that he passed through there, and they both realize they were talking about each other. And Soyoung looks at him, and they see that it's similar to the paintings in the cave, extra clothes, and they begin to discuss the protagonist's writings a bit more thoroughly, mentioning that they appear to hold significant scientific value. And then, Song asks if he lived there, and the protagonist becomes frightened because he sees other notes of his, stating that it has been 500 years since he became the owner of Moon Hill, the symbol of the king, and for 100 years, he invaded the Soro territory. And then he remembers Koro, recalling the tiger he fought with for many years, and he remembers the fight until Soyoung calls out to him, asking if he is all right, and he sees another piece of his writing that discusses the war on Moon Hill, and it says there that it has been 30 years since Jack the Gorilla started a revolt, and he says that 3 sunsets from now, the final. A lot of people ask who he is, and Prota says he's just a friend from the dungeon, inviting everyone to enter today's dungeon. Meanwhile, that same guy keeps watching and paying close attention. Battle against Jack will begin. He remembers this. And, in another piece of writing, it says that, in the war, one of them will definitely die. Then he starts to remember everything that happened in that. The planet Donsoa calls out to them, mentioning there are some unfinished blades there, and asking if he was the one sharpening the shiny stones. And they ask if that isn't interfering with the artifact. And Prota runs out of there. They ask where he is going, and Soyoung tries to run after him, but Dan stays behind, telling Minsu that he is pissed off because of his jokes. But he says that he also joked around, and Prota runs away with a purpose, until he goes to the highest peak he can find, wondering what the hell happened on your planet. Okay, this is getting interesting, and I have a theory that might make sense soon, because since time on this planet passes much faster than time on Earth, maybe a lot happened, and the planet collapsed after Prota left. And then she goes up to Soro, asking what happened, and if that was where he used to live. He says it seems like it. Yes, but something is wrong, and she asks him what it is. He tells her that there used to be a snow-covered mountain there, with a forest of fruit trees on the other side, and the sea nearby. And she's surprised that there was a sea, and he tells her that it was called the Thunderous Sea, and that no one should go there. She is then surprised that there was a level 4 monster, and questions him about the writings, asking if he was the one who wrote them, and he confirms that he was. He explains that it was the result of his efforts to not forget civilized society. And right at the beginning, when he arrived there, he lived in that cave to hide from the other animals, and began writing on the walls. And even after moving to another place, he would come back every now and then to write. Paying attention to Prota, JK's group talks to him because they were wondering who he was. It was Parque Soro, and he invited the boy to come in as well. But Jay keeps thinking to himself that a diary, so that he wouldn't forget how to write, and he would return there, writing a bunch of random things just to keep his memory active and reread what he had written. Yes, she asks if the lizard men have always been there, and the protagonist says no. Then, she inquires about what happened to her animal companions. He questions this, and she tells her that this is leopard territory, and that they weren't weak enough to move because of some lizard men. Then she asks if he can see the fog over there, stating that it marks the end of the dungeon, and that it's impossible to cross. The protagonist doesn't understand anything, but then she looks down and sees lizard men approaching, and she says it's an ambush, because they are climbing up, and there are 80 of them. Everyone thinks about climbing quickly, because if they don't stay close to those two, they're dead. And so, 102 lizard men approach them, and the girl asks why they are all coming at once, while the protagonist takes out his daggers to do something. From above, she spots the Lizard King, and he begins shouting at them. The protagonist, upon seeing the Lizard King, notices a stuffed animal with fangs on its head, remembering it's the Leopard King. Surprised, he tells her to stay there with the others, throwing himself down too. On top of all those things, Soyoung asks what he's doing, and he throws himself into the middle of those hateful lizards. Meanwhile, at Grandma's house, she mentions that the pigeon she's taking care of eats quite a lot, but then the pigeon in front of her starts to teleport, just like BG, and Soyoung, seeing this, doesn't understand anything, as the protagonist simply sprouts wings, heading towards those things and preparing to kill them all. One of them throws a spear, but he manages to dodge it, and thus, he stops in front of the Lizard King, and ends up transmuting with BG at the same moment. He couldn't bring himself to tell him that his clan was disbanded, and the two guys he called his companions left under the pretense of needing medical care. It's a common story. A guild collapses, going from human to lizard, grabbing its neck in a bite and throwing himself down with it, and so Swang thinks he has completely lost it. Donsol doesn't understand anything and starts shouting. Soro calls out from above, and Mino says that no matter how embarrassed he is, he shouldn't have jumped like that. Then Jun asks if it was Ryung who just fell, but then Soyoung says that everything is fine and he's not dead, but they notice that he seems to have fallen down there, though the girl repeats that he couldn't have died from that fall. Just then, all those lizard men continue to climb towards them with their spears, intending to kill them. Soyoung says that they are 30 meters away and approaching, telling everyone to prepare to fight, and the nerd is already pulling out a rock to try and do something, while Donsor tells them to try to climb up with his crossbow in hand, and Jun also prepares to throw a rock from above, and the lizard men get close and are shot at from above, and the protagonist falls down there with the Lizard King, seeing the bone on his head as he's about to kill him. Enraged, he throws a punch at the Cleansed for God. The guy is killing him with a barrage of blows, exterminating that king, until the monster faints, and he grabs the creature by the neck, bringing it close to his face, and rips off the Leopard King's head from the thing's skull, flinging it far away. And he asks where the leopards are, but the Lizard King doesn't seem well enough to answer. However, he touches his hand to the protagonist's head as if he wanted to hit him. and he gets very angry about it, completely losing control. He jumps up with the lizard, rising and taking him into the sky. Meanwhile, everyone is still fighting against those lizard men, not letting them climb up. Rajan says that these long-range weapons don't use more dimensional energy than short-range weapons. And Donasua says that now he's leveling up his brother like he's a Pokemon. I think that sums it up pretty well. If you want to see more details, just watch the video that will be in the description and also in the pinned comment. When the core members leave, and level 0 clans are easy to create and easy to dissolve as well. The level of stress caused by a work environment that requires you to kill or be killed. There is also a limit to the power depending on the person's level, and it may not be effective, but sometimes it's necessary, like now. Meanwhile, Yang says that they are coming, getting ready to fight with swords, and Joao Rogue seizes the opportunity to draw his blades, but as soon as he does, he completely loses it. Then Duns notices that he's gone crazy again, telling them not to let that crazy guy jump. But then, MS notices something even worse, because Prota is in the sky with that king, and Soyoung, seeing that, gets scared. They see that Prota is clinging to the corpse of their king, and Soro takes the opportunity to throw the king into the arms of his subjects, hurling the lizard king's corpse onto the lizards that are climbing up, and with that, he gains another skill, leveling up and unlocking the wind attribute. And, by attacking that king in the middle of all those monsters, he kills many of them and acquires some skills, but he also ends up breaking the stone, sending all his companions falling from above. He tells them to quickly find cover while they are falling, and Minsu plummets from above, along with everyone else. And in the midst of all that chaos, a group of people are buried, yet Soyoung manages to survive even after that. She shouts out to everyone, asking if they are all right, until Dawn reappears, alive. Dawn says he was nearly crushed to death, and Baiko goes over to Junro, who seems to be alive. The protagonist urges everyone to leave since the door has finally opened, which Soyoung finds odd. Dawn emerged only slightly injured. Everyone is relieved, but Misor finds it strange and questions the meaning of it all. They finally leave, with the protagonist leading the way, and Miss is happy about this, but Lemon doesn't seem happy at all. And as the protagonist exits, he wonders if that's Soror Park, commenting that it seems somewhat weak. Misor tries to approach him, but he reaches a point of no return. And it wouldn't be surprising if the first two to leave never worked as mercenaries again. Then, one of them talks to Jake, asking him to cover a very serious expression, and when she greets him with good morning, he simply transforms into a dove and flies away. And they're left wondering if that guy really just turned into a pigeon and left. Although, they wonder if the captain saw it too, asking if it wasn't an illusion, and Demsong says he'll go check. He says it'll be great if they catch Sarem, asking what they think, and Miss asks Sang if she didn't say he was a dog, and she doesn't even know how to respond to that. If she didn't say he was a dog, and she doesn't even know how to respond, she asks what's wrong, wondering if something happened, and then says that if she came there to negotiate, she should just leave. Then she asks about the recording, and Soyoung tells Misu to do his part, ordering him to return to headquarters with Misu and do his part. But Misor says she needs to see John, and Soyoung asks why he should do that, and Miss says that the mission to observe Soro ends now, and she has been dispatched. The girl asks where she's going, and Miss says it's to an auxiliary mission on the border of Camp Norte, near Daegu, saying that it's very serious, and she becomes increasingly shocked by the missions she's being given. And Mensor tells them that 4 portal management members will remain there, as that's the bare minimum needed to maintain the equipment, but John R. tells him to relax, because they'll take care of them as guests. Then he says that they should try to hire more people to manage things as quickly as possible, and Jay responds to him in a very cheerful and civilized way, and Menso finds this very strange, wondering which of his personalities is the real one. Bung asks them what they mean by going back, asking Miss if she didn't say for them to cooperate with Park Saru, and she says that they will go back and discuss salary now, since the director is waiting. So, they should go soon, but she says that's not the problem, from the rear. He asks them not to forget to keep their distance from the front lines, and he thinks that, as a mercenary, if a clan frequently teams up to challenge dungeons, asking why Park Saru refused to meet with them, he starts cursing those guild bastards, calling them idiots, and questioning the existence of a fake level 5 guild. He plans clear that dungeon alone, saying they're acting this way because if they don't clear the dungeon in time and it breaches, they'll be begging the Ministry of Defense for help. Dan O says that the way that idiot is talking is irritating her, but Jiwoo just asks them to leave, and so, as she heads back, Miss Lee answers a call from the principal, who asks where she is. He's asking if she was the one who told everything to the press, saying that, because of her, he can't stop receiving calls. But she says that everyone is backing down, with the exception of the management team. They can resolve this later, so they'll talk when they meet. And noticing how serious she looks, he asks what she's seeing. Back at the agency, Miss Lee shows him all those recordings, and he asks if everyone there can see the Korean scriptures, explaining that they discovered Park Seoro's diary written on the cave walls. Fast forward to when he was fighting the boss, he suddenly jumped into the sky and hurled the lizard. He mentions that, unfortunately, he couldn't record this inside the dungeon, but he managed to do it when he was outside. And they are surprised that the protagonist transformed into a pigeon. He explains that they believe he can merge with animals he has tamed in this way. He says that, that's the end of the recording. Then Limmingung thinks that this is terrifying, because dealing with the Lizard King like that is just too much. And the director says that the strength of the Lizard King in a dungeon, level 4 is around rank B, but Minsu says it's rank A, and he defeated an A rank easily. And so the director starts to assume that Pa Soroa is above S rank. Then, So Young. Groups form in a single day, and there has to be at least one person destined to be your comrade among these people, and he will start again. As they face that portal, the blonde arrives on her, says that his current dimensional energy is E rank, his normal combat skills are S rank or higher, and, after the fusion, it depends on the animal, but they believe he can reach at least SSS rank. And furthermore, Park Seoro's skills have no level up limit, unlike other awakened beings. So, Liming Song contemplates this limitless state, questioning if all irregulars are like this. Soyang says he doesn't know if everyone is like that, but Park Seoro is. Then, the director says that if he's like this now, he wonders what his condition was like before. To return, Mensen says that if all the people who disappeared during the cataclysm return like Park Seoroa, his country will become a superpower. Smuyu says that, since going through a portal without equipment means certain destruction, there's almost no chance there will be another like him. But then the director says that, in any case, even the initial test demonstrated that Park Seoro is a level 4 dungeon returnee, but she says they can't be completely sure yet. The director says he doesn't want to believe it either, but it's a fact, that this isn't about a new planet. And the important thing right now is that the secret to parkour skills lies within that dungeon. The director asks if that's right, and Misser confirms. The director asks why Pero is interfering with the scouts, even though he signed a contract. Elimin says he probably doesn't want to share the secret of his power, calling him a greedy bastard. But Soyang says that Pero isn't like that, and Misser asks if he doesn't think that means they need to negotiate even more. Then the director asks what more he wants, since they've already offered more than enough. And Misor says that, precisely for that reason, he's questioning what the problem is this time, while Pero leaves them behind. Motorcycle, making her way, and she says she's leaving the Soro clan office right now. They will be attacking dungeons starting tomorrow, and so the manager says she will send the, wondering what they mean by the secret to his strength. As they stand there, they continue negotiating, and Misor asks if he's interested. Emsung says that if he fills his squad with 37 people, including 80 or more S-rank individuals, he will take responsibility for finding him, and the issue with the minister's investment will also be resolved without any problems. And, the director, says that it's true, and even if they take all the spoils, it seems like a very good deal. He requests 3 times his usual pay and a 780% bonus, and the director says that if he resolves the problem, that amount is insignificant, and he speaks with Kim Soo, asking if they should go to Soro Park to have free access to the dungeon. Then she asks if they don't have that thing left, and he questions what this thing is that she's offering. Meanwhile, the monk is with all of his apprentices and is leading them to harvest the tomatoes. But while they are entering the warehouse, inside, something transformed is waiting for him, lurking in the shadows. Got it? All the military personnel are preparing and speaking with the commander, who are in agreement, and he ends up calling Team 11. Soyang isn't even paying attention and says that there are no problems with Team 11's detection capabilities. So, he says that they will start the operation, heading towards the portal. But as she goes along with the other hunters, they comment that they heard the ego border is like hell on earth because of all the dungeon in the area, and they doubt that they will send the detection team to the front lines, asking Soyang about it, and she confirms, telling them to write their wills and send them to their families before they lose signal. But none of them appreciate the words she just spoke. Meanwhile, on the protagonist's little farm, everything is peaceful, and he is simply sleeping in the middle of the location, and she receives it immediately, taking off on her motorcycle and accelerating even more. Meanwhile, The protagonist is dealing with that dungeon, and M uses the dragon charge, and one of them asks if they, hey, and Dom just thinks he's sleeping much longer than usual, and says that, since it was revealed that he's just a level 4 dungeon returnee, the donations must have stopped, but then, he ends up seeing something that catches his attention and asks how much it costs to get there. So, Donna asks him to at least knock on the door, and he apologizes, asking if he was. I'm watching a website about good people, but the girl asks, what are you talking about? They are in the middle of the day. Then, Junar asks if the monk called, and DS says no, adding that he can't get in touch with him, asking if something happened. And so he wonders if he has achieved divine enlightenment, because either way, he's probably just having fun playing with the kids or something like that. But then he asks what that is in Junro's hand. She says that her grandmother already mentioned she seems to be hallucinating due to a vitamin deficiency, so she bought her some supplements, food for her. Then they are surprised because she seems too well. But Dom Sor asks Jun-R if he doesn't think Soro has been sleeping too much these days, and he agrees that she has, planning to wake him up. But the protagonist is already awake and looking at the tree. He says he had thought he might be reunited with his friends when the portal opened, but the land he came back to was just a small fragment of home. Instead of friends, it was filled with red lizards he had never seen before. And he remembers his family of red wolves, thinking about the leather and also Jack's tribe and everything he experienced in that world, wondering where those bastards are, and questioning if they scattered to another place because they were afraid of the lizards. But he wonders if it even matters, because if they are destined to, they will meet again one day. Just then, Junar goes over there, asking if he's awake, calling him. They're saying it's Dragon's Charge, the new ability Monmian obtained after emptying his clan's treasury. The streamer mentions that Park Soro's only brother, to come down and eat. And the protagonist agrees, saying that he slept so much that he didn't even realize he was hungry. And Lorena keeps calling him until he finally goes out to eat. He asks where Lorena went because she likes it there so much. They are both surprised that Prota is asking about her, and Don Su asks if he doesn't even know his sister-in-law's name, and then asks if it isn't Lorena. Don So is shocked by Prota's idiocy. Prota questions why Don So is reacting like this, and Don So thinks that this is impossible, stating that her name is Soyoung, Choi Soyoung, and Prota didn't even know that. Then Don So asks if they weren't going out, but Prota questions if he is talking about hunting there, and so Don So begins to get an idea of what is really going on in that guy's head, wondering if hunting and mating is all he can think about. And Joao Rodzar sent her to the field, and Prota asks about this field, and he says that she called him since Prota wasn't answering his cell phone, and furthermore, he says that they need to recruit new members for the guild, and Prota asks if they really have to do that. That's right, and Joao R says, yes, they need people to operate the portal meter. What's more, they don't know where or when a portal might appear in their territory, so your current numbers aren't enough to handle it, and Prota asks Don if he knows people they can recruit. He says that if he asks his old boxing friend and searches among the channel subscribers, there should be some. Then he asks about Prota. After that, he realizes that it hasn't been that long since he returned, which is true. And Prota also asks if the monk has appeared, and Junro says that he hasn't called either, and he remembers that the monk said the place where the orphans and elders were living was safe. And Su says he still isn't answering his cell phone, and he, recently awakened, is also absurdly strong, and says that he is perfectly normal until he holds a knife, at which point he becomes a complete psychopath, the butcher Park John R. And finally, the ability that isn't the type of person to do that. Meanwhile, over there with Soyoung, the weather is terrible, and they enter the red zone with necrophiles, and they question whether this was on the original route. But the girl is. Keeping an eye on her phone, she eventually gives up trying to contact Prota and turns off her cell phone to enter the location. When Prota sees that he has 2 missed calls from her, he calls the girl, but he can't get through because she has no signal, since she turned off her cell phone. Meanwhile, she enters the zombie zone with everyone else, and one of those zombies, apparently, is one of the things that's there with the MJA. After a while, Prota continues calling her, and when her phone finally turns on, it's all broken, bloody, and he keeps thinking that she's not answering. Meanwhile, Misor arrives at Prota's property and talks to Junro, saying that they have just arrived and asking if they can find Soro. But then, Leung looks to the side and sees a dog-faced guy. Permisor doesn't understand anything, but it's Prota sitting and looking at the tree, and he asks if it's about the inspection. She says yes, and he says, which isn't some new planet, wondering why they are so focused on it and inspecting it so closely. She explains that they want to find the secret behind her skill within that dungeon. He says that, as he's already stated, they just need to train arduously for 1000 years, asking why they don't believe him. But Leung loses his patience, telling him to stop acting like that they are from the same country, saying that they will help each other as good compatriots during these times of national crisis. However, the protagonist doesn't understand this talk about a national crisis. Elim Sung says that the frequency of the emergence of level 6 dungeons is increasing, and the time limit for breaking through a dungeon is slowly decreasing, along with the number of people he learned from the skill book is tracking. Meanwhile, John R continues to kill the monsters in a very brutal manner. But the streamer notices that while he's focused on this, something infected in the countryside has skyrocketed, putting pressure on the city due to immense food and labor shortages, and people with strong skills like his are urgently needed. But the protagonist asks what he means by infected people. Min Sung explains that after the cataclysm, an unknown virus began spreading among the people living in the camp. Someone named Bill was discovered in a field in North America and is considered the first infected individual. These infected people are neither alive nor dead, and they attack people and animals indiscriminately and are referred to as necrophiles. The red areas marked on the map indicate red zones infested with necrophiles. They explain that if the number of red zones with necrophiles increases, or if land transport routes are disrupted, preventing times more boars, times outbreaks in the camps will become more difficult. The protagonist comments that if it's a virus of unknown origin, there isn't much they can do. However, Miss explains that they believe it's an alien virus that arrived through the portal and is spreading so rapidly that it's difficult to respond effectively with their current workforce. And the protagonist asks if, in exchange for permission to freely inspect the dungeon and hunt there, they will give him gifts. And Missor says that first, they will raise his guild's level to level 5. And he thinks that means they can now enter level 5 dungeons. And she confirms that's right, asking him if it isn't exciting. And the protagonist asks about the other gift. She says they will give him territory, and the protagonist finds this strange, and she mentions the region that used to be Gyeonggi-do, located north of Guizhou, and in Myeongjo, which is near the Soro territory, but he questions whether he will be able to manage it. And the protagonist replies that if she's talking about fields, it's already abandoned land, is approaching from behind him and shouts to June that something is there. That frog flying towards him is easily shot down by June R, but as he kills it with a brutal attack, he starts asking if she's requesting them to protect Eastern Seoul from danger, and she clarifies that they are abandoned lands, with the exception of Siu, Donggu, Busango, Anju, and Jeju. Most of the regions are practically fields, and after the Great Disaster, the people who remained in the fields couldn't take it anymore and began moving to safer areas because of the ghouls and the dungeon outbreaks. But large cities with stable security don't have enough space, and Proto wonders if he should stay with Gyeonggi-do and take them in. And she says that when people come together, they can help rebuild the city by developing trading districts, dungeon districts, and clearing farmland. And if the Soro Guild could be recognized for its skill in managing its territory, it would probably earn astronomical profits. In the dungeon commercial district, a mobile modular home should be used in case of dungeon breaks. Then, when a gate with a long break time appears, that guild would hit the jackpot. I don't know. I don't trust this woman anymore. Not at all. I'm absolutely sure that she's trying to put the plo, ready to work for free. So he thinks it's not a bad offer, but asks about the situation in North Korea. Ilimin says they suffered a major blow to their command system. At the beginning of the Great Disaster, there were coups d'etat, and when their command system collapsed, they escaped to the mainland. The remaining survivors are moving from place to place to survive. And since they can't systematically manage the dungeons, breaches are occurring everywhere, and he asks if it's only a matter of time before they escape to Seoul. And the protagonist, seeing this, he smiles slightly and thinks he's not sure if he's being deceived or if he's the one deceiving them, and tells them that he will do it and that he will sign the contract. And Miso says that so, I hope you enjoy this continuation. Leave a like so that I can make part 3, because it only gets better from here. And also subscribe so we can reach the goal faster. To laugh in a strange way. And the streamer notices that he is smiling, as he is already turning into a yakar. And the professional watching this says that it seems the 3 of them are enough, but then, made the right decision, and he asks if the condition that he has to stay in the country for 100 days has been waived, and she says yes. So, the protagonist says there are 2 things that he would like to ask in person. She asks him to tell her what it is. He says he wants to meet the scientist who invented the dimensional energy measuring device. Then she asks about another request, and he asks her to locate the cell phone of his guild member, the monk Mongi-jin. Then she is surprised, and he says that Mongi-jin suddenly stopped answering his cell phone. She agrees, saying that both are easy requests to fulfill, and Limonsun says that she will begin her mission. Meanwhile, at the open recruitment for mercenaries for the Sheila Guild, 3 people are present, and it is said that the Sheila Guild is a mercenary group created by the largest conglomerate in Korea, Ayla Corp, and they are talking about how recruitment only opens twice a year. But most mercenaries are completely disqualified during the registration phase, and the Sheila Guild is the dream guild of most mercenaries. It's difficult to get in, but once you do, you'll receive a lot of assistance. And that kid mentions he signed up, hoping to get leftovers, even after the guild rejected him. But somehow, he made it through the application phase. There's a guy who mentions he's finally being recognized after working for 3 years in small clans and as a freelance mercenary, but he says it's not over, and out of the 50 people who pass the registration phase, only 10 will be chosen after the interview. But he says he can't lose his confidence there, and that this could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But then, he notices something and looks at his cell phone, startled. Meanwhile, inside, during the interview phase, the people sitting are told that they can leave. Then the man says that this open recruitment, a huge explosion occurs nearby, and Jeffrey's group fights against the monsters, with Jeffrey already bleeding. He asks his friend why that idiot threw a sama. This time was also disappointing, saying that everyone is quite ordinary, and one of the interviewers comments that they would be good as carriers, since they would guard the supplies with their lives. But then, one of them mentions that one of the chosen candidates is a swordsman. They wonder who it could be, and it turns out to be G himself. They're surprised that the swordsman showed up, as he's someone with considerable experience, but one of them, while reading G Cheb's file, notices that he's been working for 3 years, but is still ranked E. Another examiner comments that if his awakened ability is indeed swordsmanship, it might be worth training him, adding that, go get that one over there. And with that, they instruct the next group to enter, sending numbers 45 through 50 inside, but only 4 actually go. They inquire as to why there are only 4 people. When asked about G's whereabouts, they reply that he suddenly left for some reason, and the guy who had personally selected G is left wondering, since he disappeared right after being chosen. Meanwhile, that's right, Jasik is looking at a message from Prota, who is personally inviting him to join his guild, and he simply tears up the Sheila Guild application, stating that he has no interest. Thinking about it, since that invitation is from the guy who saved his life, and it's the most talked about topic in Korea right now. Meanwhile, the group attacking the zombies is heading inside, and they keep talking about how few experience points those things give, saying the others are too scared to notice, but they still don't know when they'll be ambushed, and one of them talks to Sergeant Ran, asking if he wants to hear about the time he was surrounded by 2,000 of them last month, and the zombies keep coming, and they comment that the roads are getting more dangerous, and maybe they should have stuck to their usual route, but one of them says they had no choice, since they wouldn't arrive at the designated time if they didn't. Firebomb at him, but one of them is caught by that frog and eaten, while the others suffer the same fate. He begins to faint, realizing that this team is finished as well, and he used this entrance. But then the driver speaks to Captain King and stares at something ahead, asking what the hell that is, and there's a group of zombies devouring a beast nearby. And so they prepare to open fire, but one of the zombies gives them a very scary look. So, the captain orders them to turn the zombies into dust with the anti-tank rockets, but the driver says that if they shoot, the necrophiles will become agitated, but he insists they don't have time, telling them to just shoot, because if they stay there, they will soon be in the area of operations. Bang's aerial military forces, and so he agrees, doing as the captain asks, and launching fire upon the necrophiles. As the bombs head in their direction, the zombies finally pay attention, but they are completely blown up. Then, the other zombies around begin to notice. The captain tells him to keep moving forward. They drive over everything that Fortius comes in the way and begin to accelerate towards the base. But the necrophiles run after them, and they prepare the machine guns to try and do something. And so the captain says they are. He arrives and asks them to launch fire, and everyone shoots upwards at them, ending the entire threat. Meanwhile, in Gapyeong, a car is racing as fast as it can, and inside is a man running away from those zombies, and the man says that he must go to that camp area. And when they enter the place, zombies continue to follow them, and one of the men says that if they go a little farther away, they will reach the camp management office. And the driver apologizes, because if only he hadn't stubbornly insisted that they come there, and thought that those creatures arrived in that area, it wouldn't have happened. But then the protagonist's companion tells the Lord that he also wanted to cook a delicious meal with fresh vegetables that they picked for the children. But at this, he remembers Prota's team, thinking he was envious, but he starts to put himself down, saying that there's no way he'd let a swordsman who can't get out of rank E join that. Is moved by Mongjin's words, and he says that in the field there are many vegetables that they need to get. They will escape for now and return quickly so they can eat with them. Children. The other one agrees, confirming that's right and that everyone must be very hungry. However, the zombies are still chasing them. They point out that the door to the office on the ground floor is open and they just need to get there. Meanwhile, Milan looks back and says they can run fast, adding that when the car stops, they need to run as fast as they can. Everyone in the back agrees, with the monk, and they become somewhat fearful. Mojin then declares that this time, he will make sure to save them all. As soon as they get close and the car stops, they jump out to escape from those things. The monk urges everyone to run. At that moment, the monk Sior tells Myojin to look back. Then, he prepares to send the children inside, while he remains behind to deal with those things. He pulls out his staff and immediately throws one back, killing the first of them. He continues to use divine retribution to kill all the zombies ahead until he sees a huge number of them, and so, he thinks there are too many. There are still 6 minutes left before Dragon Rush's cooldown ends, but then he feels something and sees a fairy close to his face, also going after all those zombies. Then, the fairy lifts all the zombies in the area with multiple hurricanes. And in that moment, both Myojin and the other monks stare at it, and Myojin doesn't understand what's happening until someone appears on top of that building, and the protagonist says that this seems very useful. Then, Myojin and the other monks look up there, and the protagonist appears, and Myojin calls him benefactor. He tells them to stay away, saying that Myojin wouldn't want to get sucked in with them, and so, guild. See guys? 10 times. The only difference between success and failure is trying. If he had gone to Prota and asked to join the guild, he would already be doing much. He uses the tornado again, using many of them, so he can finish off that many zombies easily. And he says he liked it, because he is able to handle. They defeat them from afar quite easily. Meanwhile, those soldiers are fighting the zombies with bullets, and the captain requests a connection with Doban's aerial military operations from Area 7. He tells command that this is Topper 3, and they are being pursued by ghouls. He requests support at his current location, but then something happens, and several rocks are launched into the air. And, seeing those rocks coming towards them, there isn't much they can do. But the driver tells them to hold on tight and floors it to get out from under the rocks. But they end up going over a cliff and start to fall, along with all the zombies, overturning. The others report that Car 2 has rolled over and begin to retreat. Meanwhile, Soyoung is still in her car, feeling her sword vibrate. One of them tells the captain that he thinks they are in trouble, and several more zombies swarm their car. She turns on the camera so she can see them from outside. But a zombie is right in her face, and she gets a real shock from that decaying eye. My friend, that's a seriously huge psychological scare. Imagine how terrifying that must be. I want to see how this girl is going to get out of there, and how the protagonist will manage to reach her to save her. And if you want to see it too, don't forget, just like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, leave a like, subscribe, share the video, and comment down below, because without comments, I don't know what you're thinking. Talk about the video and request a continuation, because it will soon be on the table, and I'll see you in the next video. We better. And so Prota's group returns to that dungeon, and the streamer says that he was definitely faster. This time, he's feeling much less tired, and M says it was a moment. Significant, as he could feel the power of a skill book, something he had only heard about until now. The protagonist thinks this is great, but from now on, they will split up and attack in teams. But then that guy is waiting for him outside, asking if they are part of the Soro clan. The protagonist asks who he is, and he introduces himself as Choi Myung from the BDG guild. And the streamer is surprised to hear him mention this guild, as it is a level 5 guild from Area 4 and the owner of the portal they just exited, adding that it is a huge guild ranked 20th in the Problems of Sevendians country. The protagonist asks why he is there, and Choi replies that it is a coincidence that they are sharing the same area as the famous Soro clan, so he just wanted to give a here on the channel. We're less than 1,000 subscribers away from reaching the goal. So share the video, comment below asking for part 3, support the video if that option appears for you, and leave a small gift. The protagonist questions him about this gift, and he explains that they heard the Soro clan had leveled up, so as a congratulatory present, they wanted to give them an entrance ticket, offering free access to one of his level 2 dungeons and asking for feedback. The streamer is happy because an entry to a level 2 dungeon is worth around 10 million won of one. He asks for their opinions, wondering if they want to go there now, but John Rowe advises them to prepare a little more before going to a level 2 dungeon. Then Tui says they don't need to worry too much because they've even prepared strategies and equipment as a gift, saying that they'll go together. But then, the streamer is shocked that they received all this help, and Sorrow thinks it's more than enough, and Prota suggests that they can go to the level 1 dungeon and improve their teamwork even further. He'll go into the level 2 dungeon alone to be more efficient. Choi likes that, and they all understand, saying that you can go ahead. So, Choi asks to accompany him in his car, and Prota goes with him. On the way, Choi mentions that they are going to use Portal 47, and Prota replies that he doesn't see any. There aren't any mercenaries around. It's almost ironic how empty it is. Choi explains that it's because the portal hasn't been formed for very long, and since he's already handled the entry procedures, Prota can enter right away. Then Prota says he thinks he's bothering him too much with this, but Choi responds that they would be even more grateful if the Soru clan continues to use their guild's portal in the future. Prota says that he also likes the portals that are close to him, so he doesn't see a problem with it. And just then, as he gets out of the car, Choi asks if everything is ready, and an officer inside, and without further ado, let's get to the continuation. So, Junro's certificate is finally ready. He also receives a cell phone as a gift, and is told that he is now qualified to, says yes, confirming that the strategy notes and an additional survival kit are there. Prota adds that they'll grab something to eat after he gets out of there. Choi simply thanks him, telling him to hurry up and finish so they can go grab a drink. But as Prota gets ready to enter the portal, putting on the helmet and crossing over into another dimension, Choi starts laughing from outside. Then Blonde arrives, and he's unsure what's going on. Blonde stops next to him and asks if that's where Sorrow Park just went in, and he confirms it. Same, but he asks who she is, and she says she's a member of the Sorrow clan, and that she's going in as well. Choi just smiles, saying of course, but as they go inside, he has a sly little smile, scummy on his face. A while before, he was talking to another guy at a facility and says he's going to get 2 billion per head. The other guy questions why there's a guy like that involved. It's not even considered murder. Choi says it's not difficult to manipulate them, but it's a big risk because he's so famous. As she enters, he says that a total of 4 billion will be made, smiling. Enough. As the girl enters that portal and falls into the trap, she remembers when she went to speak with the rest of the Soro clan. Upon arriving, she asked where the protagonist was. Then, June speaks that he had just left, so she immediately got on her motorcycle and headed there. She warned the department leader that he was heading to a different portal, telling her that she was pursuing him, and the leader ordered her to enter the portal with the protagonist. She questions the reason, and the leader says she wants her to confirm and report his abilities with her own eyes. But she wonders if it's too much to witness in a level 2 dungeon. Besides, she's not dressed appropriately for it, but the manager points out that she has the bracelet. However, she says she doesn't like these clothes, and the manager says she will give her a double bonus.